Chapter 157. I think this suits you very well. Along with Shilan's gentle voice, a strange black saber appeared in her palm. As soon as this item appeared, a wave of clear and melodious sound of air trembling resounded in the air. This is? Chu Hen's handsome brows raised as he looked at the saber in front of him with astonishment in his eyes. The saber was more than 3 feet long, and its appearance was similar to a longsword. The body of the saber was black like ink, and the blade was suffused with a silver luster. The back of the saber was relatively wide and thick, and it had 9 teeth. Moreover, there was a strange pattern on the surface of the black saber. The pattern was like the sharp teeth of a powerful fierce beast, and it emitted an extremely cold and murderous aura. Treasure! It's definitely a treasure! Chu Hen, who grew up in the general's estate in Flaming Rain City, was rather knowledgeable about various weapons. The black saber in front of him gave off an extremely piercingly cold and sharp aura. It was definitely not an ordinary item. This saber is called Limitless Fang. Shilan's red lips parted slightly, and traces of inexplicable sorrow flashed in her beautiful eyes that were like autumn water. She sent the black saber to Chu Hen. I'm giving it to you now. Giving it to me? Chu Hen was obviously taken aback. Yes. Shilan nodded lightly, and her beautiful eyes looked straight at him. That day when I was attacked by that person in the Heaven Lake mountain range, if you didn't wake me up, I'm afraid I would have died in the Hatred Illusory formation. Originally, I should give you an additional 5,000 star points, but that's my personal matter after all. So I should thank you in private. There's no need for that, instructor. Chu Hen laughed heartily, and he rubbed his nose in slight embarrassment. Instructor, you've saved me time and time again. It's nothing for me to help you once. Take it. You won't be able to find a suitable close combat weapon in a short period of time. Accepting it can be considered as helping me to let go of some of the pain from the past. Pain? Tutor, what do you mean? Shilan looked a little gloomy. She looked at the black saber in her hand and murmured, "This was originally a gift from my brother." I see. Then all the more I can't accept it, mentor. But he's dead. What? As soon as these words came out, Chu Hen immediately froze on the spot. His pupils faintly trembled, but he didn't know what to say. Shilan's eyes were filled with uncontrollable grief. Her fingertips gently stroked the blade of Limitless Fang, as if she was caressing the tender cheeks of her beloved younger brother. I can still clearly remember how happy he was when he first obtained the Limitless Fang. He jumped onto the rooftop excitedly and shouted that he would become a peak expert in this world in the future. After so many years, I should let go of this matter. I believe that Shichen doesn't want to see me living in the shadows of the past. Shilan murmured to herself softly. Her gentle and sad look was especially pitiful. Then, she looked at Chu Hen again and said, "Although it's not very polite to give you an item from a deceased person, I think you're the most suitable person for this Limitless Fang." Hearing Shilan's trembling voice, Chu Hen felt an indescribable heaviness in his heart. This black saber called Limitless Fang carried too many of Shilan's emotions. Now that she gave this saber to him, on a certain level, she was entrusting her younger brother's long-cherished wish to him. This was a precious and heavy gift. What virtue or ability do I, Chu Hen, have to receive such favor from teacher? Chu Hen let out a deep breath of relief. He immediately extended his hand and received the limitless tooth from the other party's hand. Tutor, from today onwards, I will definitely do my best to restore the glory of the Limitless Fang. Also, please walk out of the pain of the past and let go of the burden in your heart. Shilan's delicate body trembled slightly. Her misty eyes were full of complex emotions as she looked at the handsome young man in front of her. The warm sunlight shone through the lush leaves of the maple trees. It shone on Chu Hen's fair face, making him look a little hazy. A gentle breeze blew, rolling up the fiery red maple leaves on the ground. In an instant, another young figure seemed to appear in front of Shilan's eyes. It was the same slender figure, handsome face, and determined eyes. This blurry figure was already very familiar to Shilan. Her pupils trembled slightly as if she saw the two young figures overlapping in front of her. Zing! A crisp metallic sound suddenly came from the limitless Fong, and the cold blade flashed with a dazzling light. At this moment, Shilan seemed to feel as if the sun had just returned, and the shackles in her heart seemed to have been quietly unlocked in an instant. Subsequently, her vision became clear once again, and the person standing in front of her was still Chu Hen. Good luck! In another 5 months, it'll be the Academy Martial Competition. Although there won't be many new students participating, you surely won't be absent, right? Shilan said in a light voice. Academy Martial Competition? Chu Hen was startled. That's right. The imperial capital has a total of 31 high-ranked martial houses that have jointly organized the Academy Martial Competition. The top geniuses of the various academies will participate. To you, this is a good training opportunity. After all, Chu Hen was only a new student. No matter how high his natural talent was, the time he entered the academy and his age was still young. Compared to those top monstrous geniuses, there was still quite a gap. Shilan didn't think about what ranking she would obtain in the competition. So she just took it as a training opportunity. The Academy Martial Competition? Chu Hen clenched his fists and asked in a low voice. In other words, Wei Qingfan will participate as well. Shilan's beautiful brows raised slightly. She'd heard of Chu Hen's encounters in the imperial capital during these past few months. He was continuously rejected by 27 high-ranked martial houses, and presumably, the reason behind it was related to Wei Qingfan. Coupled with the trip to St. Bell City, Chu Hen and Wei Qingfan were always at odds with each other. It could be seen that the enmity between the two of them had practically reached an irreconcilable degree. If you want to defeat Wei Qingfan, it'll be difficult, Shilan said. High-grade spirit talismans aren't allowed in the Academy Martial Competition. I don't intend to defeat him with spirit talismans. Chu Hen clenched his fists tightly, and a ghastly chill surged in his eyes. No matter what kind of monstrous genius Wei Qingfan was, Chu Hen pondered in his heart. Once he encountered Wei Qingfan in the Academy Martial Competition, he would definitely go all out. The bleak autumn wind blew past, and a wave of coldness was especially clear. In the following period of time, Chu Hen immersed himself in a fast-paced, high-quality state of cultivation. Every morning, he practiced spear techniques. In the afternoon, he studied saber techniques, and at night, he tried to control the power of the runes and learned the most basic rune arrangement. Almost every day, Chu Hen's schedule was full. Even Mu Feng, who was used to being lazy, seemed to be stimulated by Chu Hen's diligence. Soon, Mu Feng also reduced the number of times he went out, and he was obviously much more hard-working than before. In the blink of an eye, 3 months passed quietly. As these 3 months passed, not only individual people, but all the genius students in the entire Tensei Prefecture, and even all the high-ranked martial houses in the imperial capital, entered a tense state of cultivation. There was no other reason than the Academy Martial Competition that was going to take place in 2 months. The Academy Martial Competition. This was the stage for all the monstrous geniuses to show off their abilities, and it was also the feast that everyone in the imperial capital was looking forward to. The gathering of the wind and clouds, the competition between dragons and tigers. All kinds of top geniuses, gathered in one place, staged a shocking battle between the strong. All the geniuses who wanted to participate in this Academy Martial Competition quietly entered a tense state of preparation. Under the attention of everyone, it was about to usher in a dazzling starlight, Maple Forest Plaza. Boom! Accompanied by a heavy explosion, the scattered power of true essence wantonly leaked out from one side of the plaza. Chu Hen, who was holding the Demon Punisher spear, and Lu Yu, who was holding a longsword, retreated to the back. That's enough. Shilan's voice sounded. Under the gaze of Li Hui, Zhou Lu, He Qingyuan, Bian Hong, and the others, Chu Hen and Lu Yu simultaneously withdrew the aura that they released. Lu Yu smiled, "Not bad. Junior brother Chu Hen, your spear technique has improved so much." Chu Hen also smiled, "That's because senior sister went easy on me." "I didn't go easy on you. A few days ago, I discovered 2 flaws in your spear technique, but they actually disappeared today." The others at the side also secretly nodded, expressing their affirmation. Chu Hen smiled and did not say anything. His gaze then turned to Shilan, who was not far away. The latter's delicate eyebrows had a hint of admiration, and it could be seen that she also acknowledged Chu Hen's improvement. In the beginning, Chu Hen's spear technique was not flexible enough, and it was easy for him to be suppressed at close range. Lu Yu's sword technique was the agile type, and her sword was just 3 feet long, slightly shorter than an ordinary sword. In close combat, it just happened to be able to restrain Chu Hen. In the previous few sparring sessions, Chu Hen was indeed a little difficult to deal with. But as his spear technique continued to be perfected and improved, Chu Hen's spear technique became more and more exquisite. In the sparring session that just ended, Chu Hen maintained a suitable distance from Lu Yu from beginning to end. He fully displayed the advantage of the spear, and there was almost no chance for Lu Yu to get close. Next, Bian Hong and He Qingyuan will be sparring. The 2 of you go up the wooden stake formation. Yes. The 2 nodded. At this moment, a team slowly walked over from the south of the square. "Haha, Mentor Shilan, your students are all familiar with each other's moves. Why don't you spar with my direct students?" There was a hint of frivolity in his hearty laughter. All the students on the maple stakes were stunned, and their gazes swept over in unison. They saw that the leader of the team was a middle-aged man in his 30s. He wore a green robe and had an excited smile on his face. "Mentor Yue? He's here to find trouble with Mentor Shilan again. There's going to be a good show." Chapter 158. It's Tutor Yue. He's here to pick a fight with Tutor Shilan again. As they stared at the middle-aged man who had suddenly appeared on the Maple Forest Stake Plaza with a team of students, the surrounding crowd cast curious gazes over as they whispered to each other in low voices. Meanwhile, the students on Tutor Shilan's side could not help but frown. "Who is this?" Chu Hen asked Lu Yu, who was next to him. "A core tutor from our school. He lost to Tutor Shilan in the selection of core tutors for the past 2 years. So Yue has been feeling unbalanced and often comes to make things difficult for her." Lu Yu answered unhappily. Although Tensei Prefecture was not as glorious as it was in the past, the quality of teachers had always been maintained at a relatively high standard. There were a total of 7 core tutors in the entire school. Including Song Chunglai, who had been promoted to an elder, there were 8 in the selection of tutors not long ago. Song Chunglai, Shadowless, and Shilan were the 3 leaders of the core team. To most people, there was nothing wrong with this. However, in the eyes of a few people, Shilan did not have this qualification. Firstly, she was too young and lacked experience as a core tutor in many aspects. For example, Shilan had never led a team before in the Heaven Lake monster hunt. Secondly, Shilan had only been in Tensei Prefecture for a short period of time. For example, Song Chunglai and Shadowless had been in the school for more than 10 years. Be it their qualifications or teaching abilities, they were unquestionable. No one objected to them becoming the 3 main leaders of the core team. However, Shilan had only been in the school for 4 years. Including this year, it was only her 5th year. She was young, and she did not have enough experience. Naturally, there would be people who were jealous of Shilan. Tutor Yue was also unwilling to fall behind Shilan, so he would come to make things difficult for her from time to time. "Haha, Mentor Shilan, there are still 2 months before the All-Academy Martial Arts competition. In order to make the students of our academy improve together, I suggest that the students of our 2 academies compete with each other to improve. What do you think?" Yui walked up to Shilan and the others with a frivolous smile on his face. The 30 or so young men and women behind him also had frivolous and playful expressions on their faces. Their provocation was obvious. Shilan's eyes were as calm as an ancient well, without the slightest ripple. To be honest, she didn't like this kind of pointless battle. Moreover, she didn't care about the title of a corps instructor. However, Yui was right about one thing. The Academy Martial competition was just around the corner, so it wasn't a bad idea to have the students spar with each other. Since Instructor Yui is interested, let's begin. Without any hesitation, Shilan agreed without hesitation. Ha ha! Yui smiled, but a cold glint flashed across his squinted eyes. He turned to the side and said to the high-spirited young men and women behind him, Mentor Shilan's disciples are all elites among geniuses. You must take this seriously and not be careless. Yes, Mentor. The crowd replied in unison, their voices as loud as thunder. TSK, what's with the pretense? Lu Yu, Zhou Lu, Li Hui, and the others were disgusted by Yu Yi's strange tone. Chu Hen, who was standing to the side, narrowed his eyes slightly, and his eyebrows revealed a hint of contemplation. Not long after he finished speaking, a young man with a medium build and short hair walked out first. It's Liao Hua. Liao Hua's strength had already broken through to the 9th level of the element opening realm a few months ago. It seems like Instructor Yui wants to completely suppress Instructor Shilan's team this time. The crowd on the Maple Forest Steak Plaza was in a heated discussion, and the nearby crowd gradually gathered to watch. Let me take the lead first. The young man named Liao Hua leaped up, then landed steadily on a 2-meter-tall stake in the middle of the wooden stake array. A hint of playfulness hung at the corner of his mouth, as he looked at Bien Hong and He Qingyuan in front of him. Senior brothers, I wonder who will be the first to fight? Humph! Bien Hong sneered, his eyes still filled with disdain. You, Liao Hua, dare to challenge the two of us? I wouldn't dare to challenge you. It's purely a sparring match. I hope senior brother will go easy on me. Liao Hua smiled casually. Senior brother Bien Hong, you go down first. Let me fight this battle. He Qingyuan said lightly, his calm eyes revealing a hint of sharpness. Bien Hong nodded, not saying anything else. Be careful. With that, his figure moved, and he landed steadily on the wooden stake array. On the still wooden stake array, He Qingyuan and Bien Hong faced each other, giving off the feeling that they were ferocious beasts that were about to start a slaughter. Senior brother Qingyuan will definitely win. Senior brother Liao Hua, you can do it. Kick him down. Defeat this arrogant guy. The supporters of both sides were shouting and cheering. He Qingyuan and Liao Hua were both ranked geniuses in the entire Tensei prefecture, so naturally, both sides had a lot of supporters. Please, senior brother Qingyuan. Senior brother Qingyuan, Liao Hua said with a faint smile. Humph, be careful. Before he finished speaking, He Qingyuan instantly rushed out, a frighteningly cold aura gushing out like a tidal wave, fiercely suppressing Liao Hua in front of him. He Qingyuan moved on the wooden stake as if he was walking on flat ground, his eyes not paying attention to his feet, but focused on his opponent in front of him. I won't let you down, senior brother. Buzz, just as He Qingyuan was less than 3 meters away from his opponent, a powerful aura suddenly rose from his body, and a scorching heat wave spread out. Liao Hua directly raised his hand and punched out. Buzz. The surrounding air trembled, and a red beam of light shot out, setting off a scorching hot attack towards He Qingyuan. Humph! A trace of disdain appeared at the corner of He Qingyuan's mouth, and a treasured sword suddenly appeared in his hand. With a flash of silver light, he raised his hand and directly split the fire beam in half. Fireballs filled the sky like fireworks exploding in the air above the wooden stake array. Swoosh! He Qingyuan pushed off the wooden stake with the tip of his foot and glided out like a swallow returning to its nest. His powerful sword aura was like a mountain, full of surging killing power. Beautifully done, senior brother Qing Yuan, Lu Yu shouted in surprise. At the side, Chu Hen also inwardly nodded his head. No matter if it was in terms of reaction or aura, Qing Yuan's sword could be said to be flawless. However, in comparison, Liao Hua's first move shouldn't only have this much power, right? As expected, before Qing Yuan's attack could even reach Liao Hua's body, the fireball that had just been split apart actually gathered together from all directions with the momentum of returning to its cage. In an instant, Qing Yuan found himself in the center of the chaotic energy. Countless fiery rains swept over in an earth-shattering manner. It turned out that Liao Hua's previous move was only to lure the enemy in, and this second move was the true killing move hidden behind. Haha, this is the real deal, senior brother Liao Hua will definitely win. The students behind you shouted loudly in satisfaction. Feeling the ferocious fireballs attacking from all directions, Qing Yuan's expression changed slightly, and he immediately gritted his teeth. He completely ignored the fireballs, and directly raised his sword to attack Liao Hua. Damn, no way? Exchanging injury for injury, trading life for life. No one expected Qing Yuan to be so ruthless to himself, and ruthless to his enemies. Of course, in the eyes of Lu Yu, Bian Hong, and the others, Qing Yuan's move was the best choice. Although it was only the beginning, if Qing Yuan chose to protect himself and gave up on attacking, he would clearly lose the initiative. Once the initiative was lost, his chances of victory would plummet. In a situation where his chances of victory were greatly reduced, he might as well exchange injury for injury. While he was attacked, he could also weaken the enemy's fighting strength. Humph! Don't even think about succeeding. A dark glint flashed through Liao Hua's eyes as his surging aura stirred up the airflow in all directions. The former clasped his palms together as his aura, which was stronger than Qing Yuan's 9th-level element opening realm, rose. In the next instant, a fiery light screen rose into the sky like a huge wave, blocking between the two. Boom! The thunderous collision of true Yuan instantly shook the top of the wooden stake array. Qing Yuan's dazzling sword attack solidly bombarded the layer of flame light in front of him. In an instant, the eyes of everyone present were filled with the monstrous ball of fire. The fierce sword phantom and the scorching flame constantly intertwined and tore at each other, and the powerful shockwave rushed towards the surrounding crowd. Dazzling like a ray of light, more than half of the wooden stake array was swallowed by the powerful shockwave. Fortunately, the wooden stakes used in this wooden stake array were not ordinary trees, but an extremely sturdy refining material. Each of the wooden stakes could withstand an extremely large impact force. Therefore, no matter what the crowd did today, as long as Shilan and Yue did not make a move, there was no need to worry about the wooden stake array being destroyed. Bang! Once again, a huge shockwave roared in all directions, and an astonishing sword aura flew wildly along with the raging flames. Following that, the two young figures retreated from each other. Everyone was shocked. They saw that the front of Liao Hua's clothes had been cut open, but he was not injured. He nimbly somersaulted backwards and landed safely on a wooden stake behind him. In comparison, Qing Yuan was in a much more difficult situation. Many parts of his body were charred, and his face was slightly pale. There was a faint trace of blood at the corner of his mouth. He spun a few times in the air and finally landed on the ground. The battle was over in an instant. Although it was only 2 or 3 moves, the scene was really amazing. Senior brother Qing Yuan, how are you? Are you all right? Lu Yu and a few of his companions hurried forward to ask about his injuries. Qing Yuan shook his head, indicating that he was fine. As for the students on Yu Yi's side, they naturally cheered in surprise and were especially excited. Hee, thanks for letting me win, senior brother Qing Yuan. Liao Hua mocked from the wooden stake. Yu Yi's face also revealed a thick, disdainful smile. Chapter 159. The victor between Qing Yuan and Liao Hua was decided in just a few moves. The former was injured and fell to the ground, while Liao Hua was still standing on the wooden stake, unscathed. After He Qingyuan suffered a setback, Bian Hong leaped up and steadily landed on the wooden stake formation. It was obvious that he wanted to help He Qingyuan regain his face. Go, senior brother Bian Hong! Avenge senior brother Qingyuan! Senior brother Liao Hua will definitely win. Let Shi Lan's team see the power of our Yue team. Humph! Bian Hong sneered disdainfully and pointed at Liao Hua in front of him, saying, "Are you ready?" Feeling the opponent's surging aura that was stronger than He Qingyuan's, Liao Hua frowned slightly, a hint of seriousness appearing in his eyes. Bian Hong was not someone to be trifled with, especially since he had already seen Liao Hua's attack pattern from below the stage. He probably knew how to deal with it. Of course, Liao Hua was not afraid. They had come prepared today. If they were not capable, they would be too embarrassed to say that they were here to cause trouble. He, junior brother Liao Hua, senior brother Bian Hong is a top genius student who has obtained 30,000 star points. You have just fought a round, so let me be senior brother Bian Hong's opponent this round. Along with an indifferent chuckle, a young figure dressed in black walked out from behind the core instructor Yue with steady step. This person had fair skin and could not be said to be heroic, but he gave off a faint sense of danger. On his chest, there was a black badge of the Heavenly Star Martial House. It was the black badge that represented 30,000 star points. It's senior brother Luoao, instructor Yuyi's strongest student. Things are getting more and more interesting. As soon as this young man named Luoao appeared, the square couldn't help but burst into an uproar. Lu Yu, He Qingyuan, Li Hui, and the others' expressions changed slightly. Even Luoao had appeared. It seemed that Yue was here to humiliate them. A faint light flashed in the corner of Chu Hen's eyes. Luoao. He had seen this name before on Nebula Pavilion's star branch ranking. He seemed to be ranked 5th or 6th. He had forgotten the exact number, but it was very near the front. Today's situation was a little troublesome for Shi Lan's team. Senior brother Luoao is right. I'm afraid I don't have the ability to fight with senior brother Bian Hong, so let senior brother Luoao do it. Liao Hua gave a strange smile, and with a flash of his body, he retreated from the wooden stake array. Luoao then gently stomped his feet, and his whole body leaped up and landed on a wooden stake. Senior Bian Hong, please enlighten me. Humph! Stop putting on an act in front of me. Looking at your stinky face makes me feel nauseous. Bian Hong's face was filled with disgust. At the same time, a powerful stream of primary energy surged out like waves. A steady stream of golden light quickly gathered on his right arm. Without saying a word, Bian Hong raised his hand and blasted out a punch. A circle of dazzling golden light flickered like the sun. A strong wind suddenly rose, and the flood-like true essence turned into a surging shock wave that rushed toward Luoao. In the face of such an astonishing attack, Luoao's face was unhurried. At the same time, wisps of cyan true essence gathered between his left fingers at an extremely fast speed like a joyful stream. Whoosh! Luoao flipped his wrist and flicked his fingertip. A beam of cyan flowing light burst out and collided with Bian Hong's true essence shock wave. Boom! As soon as the two forces collided, a violent turbulence exploded in the air. Under the astonished gazes of the audience, the true essence shock wave blasted out by Bian Hong was split in the middle by the cyan beam of light. The condensed beam of light was like an arrow that cut through the wind and pierced through the wave. It was extremely powerful. Swish! In the blink of an eye, the beam of light had already penetrated Bian Hong's power and quickly swept toward the latter's chest. Humph, an insignificant skill. It's not elegant at all, Bian Hong shouted sternly. He raised his hand and punched the cyan light head-on. The fist that glowed with a golden light seemed to have been soaked in the holy light of the sun, and it was extremely deterrent. With a bang, the cyan light abruptly shattered Bian Hong on the spot. Hee, senior brother Bien Hong is really domineering. Luo Ao lightly smiled, a sharp cold light flashing in the corner of his eyes. His nimble movements were like a dragonfly skimming the water. He passed over 30 wooden stakes in a row and directly rushed in front of Bien Hong. His palms that were covered with true essence were like 2 palm blades. Be careful, senior brother Bien Hong. My true essence sharp blade is very sharp. Swish! Luo Ao proudly sneered, and his palm blade slashed toward his opponent's face like a green knife. Bien Hong's complexion changed slightly, and he dodged to the side. A strand of hair beside his ear touched Luo Ao's palm blade, and was instantly cut off. Everyone in the field was shocked. The sharpness of Luo Ao's palm blade was comparable to that of a divine weapon that could cut through hair and could cut through iron like mud. It was likely that one's skin would be torn apart with just a touch. Without waiting for Bien Hong to stabilize his footing, Luo Ao attacked again. In desperation, Bien Hong could only continue to launch his defense. Luo Ao's offensive was exceptionally fierce, fast, accurate, and ruthless. It was aimed at the opponent's vital point. At this time, the effect of Bien Hong's long-term practice on the wooden dummy array came into play. Although Luo Ao launched a fierce attack, Bien Hong was still calm and steady, constantly changing the wooden dummies as if they were flying. Of course, if Bien Hong couldn't find an opportunity to counterattack, the result would be very disadvantageous to him. Bang! Boom! The violent collision of forces continued to wantonly in mid-air. The rhythm of Bien Hong and Luo Ao's confrontation was getting faster and faster. Sparks flew in all directions, and it was a dazzling sight. After no less than 30 moves, not only was Bien Hong unable to reverse the situation, but he was also getting more and more disadvantaged. With this little ability, you want to fight with senior brother Luo Ao? Senior brother Luo Ao, stop playing around, let's end this quickly. It seems that the so-called Shilan team, with the strongest comprehensive strength in this school, is just an undeserved reputation. Liao Hua and the other students behind core mentor Yu Yi were talking loudly and unscrupulously. Shilan, who was on Chu Hen's side, had a calm expression on her face. Her eyes were as calm as an ancient well, and she just quietly looked at the 2 people on the wooden stakes array. Motherf *Ker, what are you showing off for? Li Huiyi cursed in a deep voice with dissatisfaction. If senior brother Ji Xian was here, Luo Ao wouldn't even dare to say a word, another female disciple of Shilan's direct line said. If senior brother Ji Xian was here, they wouldn't even dare to come. They only dare to show off now that senior brother Ji Xian is training outside. Listening to the words of the people around him, Chu Hen raised his eyelids slightly. He was more or less curious about Ji Xian. How strong was the strongest genius in the whole school in Tensei Prefecture? Just at this time, the scene that happened on top of the wooden stake formation abruptly pulled Chu Hen's thoughts back. That guy. Chu Hen frowned and murmured in a deep voice. He actually hid his strength. Chu Hen was not the only one who was shocked. The other people on the table were also shocked, and the people on Yu Yi's side had even more complacent smiles on their faces. Boom! Luo Ao's aura suddenly became abnormally strong without any warning, and it instantly suppressed Bien Hong, who was at the peak of the 9th stage of the element opening realm. The green light was like a surging wave, sweeping towards Luo Ao with a sweeping power. What? Core transformation realm. Bien Hong's face suddenly changed, and he was as pale as a sheet. Chapter 160. Core transformation stage. Sensing Luo Ao's powerful aura that had suddenly increased by more than 10 times, Bien Hong's face suddenly turned as pale as a sheet, and his pupils that had shrunk to the size of a needlepoint were filled with panic. Shilan's direct disciples and the surrounding onlookers were equally shocked. No one had expected Luo Ao to break through to the core transformation stage. From the beginning, Luo Ao had been playing with Bien Hong like a cat toying with a mouse. He had been waiting for this moment. Hee, I'm done playing with you. A smug and contemptuous smile appeared on Luo Ao's face. Powerful true chi swept out like a mountain. Luo Ao clasped his palms together, and an incomparably surging cyan light quickly converged towards the center. A cyan sword shadow then transformed into a cyan sword. Great Luo illusory sword art. Buzz, buzz. A piercingly cold aura shook the airflow in all directions, and the pressure was comparable to the attack of a mountain. Bien Hong, be careful! Lu Yu, He Qingyuan, and the others' expressions changed. Bien Hong similarly turned pale with fright, and besides his shock, he pushed out his palms, causing his powerful true essence to instantly condense into a golden seal before his hands. The golden seal was so solid that it seemed material, and the violent and uneasy energy fluctuations it emitted caused even space to faintly tremble without end. Mountain-splitting earth seal! Bien Hong shouted angrily, and his gloomy face was exceptionally fierce. At this moment, he was really angry to the extreme. He felt as if he was being played with, and he couldn't wait to smash the hateful bastard in front of him into pieces. However, there was an essential gap between the elemental opening stage and the core transformation stage. Bang! With a loud bang, the green sword shadow collided with the golden seal, and an incomparably violent force directly spread out in all directions from between the two. The powerful shockwave rolled up the dust and sand on the ground, and the ground under everyone's feet shook uneasily. Gotcha! Following that, cracks began to appear on the golden seal. Bien Hong's pupils suddenly trembled. With a loud bang, the golden seal was directly shattered on the spot, and an unstoppable power surged out. In the next moment, the green sword shadow's attack did not weaken, and it hit Bien Hong's chest. Bang! A circle of scattered true inner energy wantonly leaked out. Bien Hong's body shook violently, and the clothes on his chest were blasted into pieces. The powerful attack surged into his body, displacing his internal organs and causing his qi and blood to surge. A large mouthful of blood spurted out of his mouth, and his entire body fell from the wooden stake array. Senior brother Bien Hong, Wu Zhe and his companions were startled and hurriedly rushed forward to catch him. However, as soon as it came into contact with Bien Hong, it was like a mountain was flying towards him, and the violent might of the force was like a torrent that had broken through a dam, and it was impossible to resist. Wu Zhe and the other young man were directly brought back by Bien Hong. Their feet were sliding along the ground, and the soles of their feet were burning from the friction. Damn it, the expressions of He Qingyuan, Lu Yu, and the others, who were not far away, changed drastically. The strength of a core transformation realm martial artist was actually this powerful. Just as Bien Hong, Wu Zhe, and the others were about to fall to the ground with heavy injuries, a loud boom rang out. The three of them suddenly stopped in their tracks. At the same time, the ground beneath their feet suddenly split open with over 10 cracks that were 5 to 6 meters long. Dust flew everywhere, and mud and stones flew everywhere. Everyone present was stunned. What was going on? Then, everyone present noticed that there was actually a young figure standing behind Bien Hong, Wu Zhe, and the others, that is? Senior brother Chu Hen, Li Hui, Zhou Lu, and the others' eyes lit up. The whole audience was in an uproar, and everyone was shocked. They saw Chu Hen's hands supporting Wu Zhe's and the other young man's backs, and the two of them caught Bien Hong. Chu Hen actually caught all three of them by himself. If it was just that, it would not be a big deal. However, the powerful force just now was caused by Luo Ao, who was at the core transformation realm. While Chu Hen caught the three of them, he was not even able to take half a step back. Are you all right? Lu Yu, He Qingyuan, Li Hui, and the others also came to the front of the few people. Chu Hen shook his head slightly, and his handsome face did not show any unusual expression. On the contrary, Wu Zhe and Bien Hong were stunned. They never thought that the person who helped them would be Chu Hen. After all, everyone knew that Bien Hong and Wu Zhe had always been prejudiced against Chu Hen, and no one expected that he would repay evil with good. This was especially true for Wu Zhe, who had previously fought with Chu Hengdong. At this moment, he was feeling a little ashamed. Thank you. Wu Zhe lowered his head and thanked Huang Xiaolong awkwardly. Chu Hen smiled and did not say much. Then, they helped the weak Bian Hong back to teacher Shilan's side. I'm sorry, senior brother Bian Hong, I used too much force and did not control my strength well. Sorry. A sarcastic laughter came from the wooden stake array. Luo Ao's words were not apologetic at all. Lu Yu, He Qingyuan, and the others were annoyed, and their faces were gloomy and angry. I wonder who is going to fight next? Luo Ao stood on the wooden stake array, looking down at Shilan and the others in front of him with eyes full of arrogance. This was a blatant provocation. On the other side, core teacher Yu Yi still had a happy expression on his face. He was proud of being able to teach a genius like Luo Ao. Yu Yi was waiting for this moment. He wanted to tell everyone that he was the leader of the core team of Tensei Prefecture. The square was full of discussions and whispers. I didn't expect senior brother Luo Ao to break through to the core transformation stage. Amazing. There are very few students in our Tensei Prefecture, and the number of students who have reached the core transformation stage can be counted on one hand. Senior brother Luo Ao has really made the school proud. We have another strong competitor in the school's martial arts competition in 2 months. While the surrounding people were amazed by Luo Ao, the situation of Shilan's team became particularly awkward. Apart from the few monstrous geniuses who were outside, only Bian Hong and Wu Zhe had the highest cultivation level. Now that even they had been defeated, who else could be Luo Ao's opponent? What should they do next? Luo Ao's body was full of provocation. Haha, no one dares to fight? Everyone was silent, and their brows were tightly knitted. However, Shilan was particularly calm, as if in her opinion, it didn't matter who won or lost this battle. You win. These simple words did not contain the slightest emotional fluctuation. Shilan seemed to have no intention of continuing to fight. Before her voice died away, Chu Hen's eyes turned cold, and 2 cold lights flashed in his dark pupils. He immediately stepped forward without hesitation. Swoosh! Suddenly, the sound of rushing wind followed, and a strong gust of air engulfed the stage. Everyone's heart was slightly startled. A swift and fierce figure rushed ahead of Chu Hen and leapt onto the wooden stake formation. This figure came from outside the square, and he was travel-worn, but his powerful aura attracted the attention of everyone present. Hey Luo Ao, you're really arrogant. Why are you showing off here when we're not in the school? Boom. In an instant, everyone was shocked. Chapter 161. Hey Luo Ao, you're really arrogant. What are you doing here when we're not in the academy? A voice full of contempt and disdain suddenly spread to everyone's ears. In an instant, everyone present was shocked. The eyes of Lu Yu, He Qingyuan, Bian Hong, and the others lit up as they looked at the young figure that had flashed and landed on the wooden pillar. He was travel-worn, and he seemed as if he had just returned from outside. However, the powerful aura within his body caused everyone to be surprised. Senior brother Qingye, you're back, Lu Yu and the others shouted in surprise. Qingye was a genius student in instructor Shilan's team. He had gone to the outside world to cultivate as a new student this year, but no one expected him to suddenly return at this time. However, for the students in Shilan's team who were in an awkward situation at the moment, Qingye's return was like a timely rain. Qingye did not immediately respond to Lu Yu and the others. He looked at Luo Ao in front of him with a playful expression. Please. Hey! Luo Ao also responded with a frivolous sneer. Qingye, it seems that you're not qualified to stand here and stand out. With your level, how dare you put on an act here? Everyone in the surroundings frowned slightly. Everyone knew what Luo Ao meant. Even though the aura Qingye emitted was strong, it seemed to be a little bit away from the core transformation stage. His cultivation was probably halfway into the core transformation stage, but he hadn't completely reached this level. Humph. Cheng sneered, disapproving of Luoao's words. Why don't you give it a try? Buzz, a surging aura was constantly released from Cheng Ye's body, and a cold, murderous aura swept across the field. The surrounding people were secretly surprised. This kind of aura that was full of violent aura could only be possessed by people who had experienced many battles in the outside world. Sometimes, high-intensity combat experience could make up for the small gap between the realms. In this way, this battle would be a real fight. Senior brother Cheng Ye will win. Senior brother Luoyao, crush him. Let them see that our instructor Yu Yi's team is one of the 3 strongest teams. The battle was about to begin. Wait. Right at this moment, a thunderous voice suddenly exploded from the back of the Maple Forest Steak Plaza. Everyone present felt a sharp pain in their eardrums. In the next instant, a strong gust of air whizzed over, and everyone's expression changed drastically. Under the surprised gazes of the crowd, a young man with a dignified appearance leaped over while shrouded in a thick layer of true inner force. This was a high-spirited and extraordinarily handsome young man. His temperament was extraordinary, and his demeanor was elegant. The aura he exuded caused countless people present to feel an invisible pressure. Senior Martial Brother Ji Xian, it's Senior Martial Brother Ji Xian. An excited shout came from the crowd. Boom! In an instant, the entire Maple Forest Steak Plaza was in an unprecedented uproar. Countless people revealed unconcealable admiration in their eyes. Ji Xian was ranked first on the Star Branch leaderboard and was also the #1 person in Tensei Prefecture. So this is Senior Brother Ji Xian. Zhou Lu was a little excited. In the past, she had only heard of Ji Xian's name, but had never seen Ji Xian in person. Naturally, she was excited. Chu Hen's eyes narrowed slightly, and his face revealed a little surprise. The strong wind swept away the fallen leaves and sand on the ground. Ji Xian's movement technique was elegant, but he did not touch the ground. He glided through the air for dozens of meters and landed on the wooden stake array. His otherworldly and carefree demeanor was fully displayed. Most of the people present could not help but be subdued by the invisible temperament he exuded. Haha, Senior Martial Brother Ji Xian is back. That's great. Congratulations on your return, Senior Martial Brother Ji Xian. As the #1 person in Tensei Prefecture, Ji Xian's popularity was absolutely unquestionable. All kinds of cheers immediately broke out, and Luo Ao's side was directly suppressed. Mentor. Ji Xian first looked back at Shilan, his handsome face full of a gentle smile. Shilan nodded slightly, and her red lips parted slightly. Welcome back. First it was Cheng Ye, and now it was Ji Xian. The return of these 2 geniuses greatly boosted the morale of Shilan's team. Yu Yi, on the other hand, was frowning, his expression uncertain. Anyone could sense that Ji Xian's invisible aura was many times stronger than Luo Ao's. Senior Martial Brother Ji Xian, this kind of small character, I can handle it. Why bother you to do it yourself? Cheng Ye smiled faintly, his eyes full of disdain for Luo Ao. Ji Xian raised his eyebrows slightly, and replied with great interest, since this junior martial brother Luo Ao is the strongest student under Mentor Yue, then Mentor Shilan's team should naturally let me fight. This is fair, don't you think? The strongest student. No one present disagreed with Ji Xian's words. Not to mention Mentor Shilan's team, even if Ji Xian said that he was the strongest in Tensei Prefecture, no one would refute it. If this sentence was said by others, it would be arrogant and conceited, but coming from Ji Xian, it was an unquestionable fact. Haha, Senior Martial Brother Ji Xian is right, then I will go down first. Cheng Ye smiled indifferently, and immediately jumped down from the wooden stake array. The development of things was more and more beyond everyone's expectations. Mentor Yu Yi's team, which had the upper hand just now, was in a particularly awkward situation in an instant, unable to advance or retreat. Junior Marshal Brother Luoao, your face doesn't look very good. Ji Xian smiled playfully. Luoao frowned, clenched his fists, and shouted in a deep voice, Ji Xian, don't be too proud, do you really think I'm afraid of you? Ha 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 ha, I didn't say that. Let's decide the winner in one move. What do you think? Decide the winner in one move? The hearts of everyone went cold because this was truly a form of extreme contempt. Luoao's eyes were about to spit fire, his face darkened, and a surging true inner force burst out of his body. As you wish. Rumble. There was a thunderous momentum in the air, and the powerful power of the core transformation stage poured out from his body without reservation, and a green light spread in all directions like a stormy sea. The air flow in the square suddenly accelerated. Luoao's eyes were full of ruthlessness, and endless true inner force rotated rapidly in front of him, stirring up waves in all directions. Then, an illusory green sword shadow gradually turned from transparent to incomparably solid, and an incomparably strong murderous aura caused the surrounding space to fall into a slight tremor. It was the great Luo illusory sword art again. The expressions of everyone in the square became extremely solemn. Compared to the sword that defeated Bian Hong just now, the fluctuation of the power produced at this moment was more than 10 times stronger. Ji Xian, you underestimate me too much, you will pay a painful price. Ha ha! A playful smile appeared at the corner of Ji Xian's mouth, and he shook his head and said, I did not underestimate you, because you are not even qualified to enter my eyes. Arrogance, absolute arrogance! In the next moment, a powerful silver light rose from Ji Xian's body, accompanied by an astonishing and boundless momentum. A pair of illusory and transparent thin wings actually appeared on Ji Xian's back, that is? Everyone present widened their eyes, only to see the pair of thin wings flickering with silver light, flowing with light. Then, under the shocked gazes of the crowd, Ji Xian's figure actually left the wooden stake under his feet, and instantly flew more than 30 meters into the air. This? True inner force wings? F***CK. Senior brother Ji Xian is too freaking monstrous. At this moment, everyone in the square was shocked, and there was no one who was not shocked. Even Chu Hen's pupils could not help but shrink, and there was a look of surprise on his face. It was common knowledge that on the path of martial Tao, only those who had broken through to the void-piercing stage could fly in the air and not be restrained by gravity. However, before reaching the void-piercing stage, core transformation stage experts could try to use true inner force wings to achieve the effect of staying in the air for a short period of time. True inner force wings consumed a lot of energy, and the time one could stay in the air was very short. Most importantly, one's strength must reach the late stage of the core transformation stage. In other words, one's cultivation base must be at least the 5th level core transformation stage. In other words, Ji Xian's cultivation base had already reached the 5th level core transformation stage. Oh my god! As expected of the number 1 genius in our Tensei prefecture, senior brother Ji Xian is really amazing. Victory, senior brother Ji Xian. One was at the 5th level core transformation stage, and the other was at the 1st level core transformation stage. There was no suspense in this battle at all. Yu Yi's face had long since turned ashen. Previously, Shilan had never revealed Ji Xian's true cultivation, so everyone had assumed that Ji Xian was at most at the 2nd or 3rd level. Never in their wildest dreams would they have imagined that Ji Xian was so far ahead of all the other geniuses in the academy. Looking at Ji Xian, who had flashed high up in the sky, Luoao's heart trembled. How is this like riding a tiger and being unable to back down? It's like falling into a tiger's pit. However, the arrow was already on the bowstring, and it had to be released. Luoao gritted his teeth and gathered all his strength on the green sword shadow in front of him. The powerful and surging aura attracted the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Buzz, a bright green light bloomed, and the space faintly trembled. Luo Ao pushed out both palms with all his strength, and the green sword shadow flew like an aurora, sweeping towards Ji Xian, who was above him with a shocking killing intent. Great Luo illusory sword art kill! The biting cold power was extremely strong, and the attack that gathered all of Luo Ao's strength was unusually strong. However, there was only a strong disdain on Ji Xian's face. He looked down condescendingly, and a wisp of silver light condensed on his right finger like a spirit snake. The extremely restless energy fluctuation was like the magma brewing in the belly of a volcano. Ji Xian waved his wrist downwards, and a silver beam of light fell down from the sky like a lightning beam. With a shocking momentum, it met the green sword shadow that was flying towards him. Chapter 162. The powerful and surging energy stirred up the airflow in all directions, and the air was filled with waves. Under the shocked gazes of everyone on the Maple Forest Stake Square, Ji Xian waved his hand downwards, and a silver beam of light swept out from his fingertips. The extremely violent energy wave suppressed the whole place, like a lightning beam falling from the sky, and with a shocking momentum, it collided with the green sword shadow that was flying towards him at an altitude of about 20 meters. Boom! The confrontation between two monstrous geniuses at the core transformation stage caused the sky to darken and the earth to dim. The powerful shockwave shook the surroundings, and a bright halo suddenly swayed above the wooden stake array, spreading infinitely like ripples on the surface of the water. Everyone on the sidelines was shaken by this powerful shockwave, and was forced to retreat. Dead branches and leaves were swept away, and a sudden gust of wind blew, whistling through the whole place. Bang! In the next moment, Luo Ao's strongest attack was directly suppressed, and the solid green sword shadow was instantly shattered, bursting into a ball of scattered true essence like tofu dregs. Immediately after, the silver beam of light did not reduce its offensive power, and directly slashed down on Luo Ao's head. Luo Ao's pupils suddenly shrank to the size of a needle tip, and his face was filled with a strong sense of horror. Boom! A violent explosion once again sounded in everyone's ears, and the incomparably surging energy wave was completely vented on Luo Ao's body, and the terrifying power was comparable to the attack of a mountain. Along with a large mouthful of blood, Luo Ao directly flew out of the wooden stake array and fell heavily to the ground. Senior brother Luo Ao, several students from Yu Yi's team hurriedly rushed up to check on Luo Ao's situation, only to see that Luo Ao did not have the slightest bit of his previous high-spirited appearance. His whole body was covered in blood, and it was unknown whether he was dead or alive. One move to decide the outcome. It was better to say that he was defeated in one move. In an instant, everyone's faces revealed a strong sense of horror and fear. Even Chu Hen could not help but secretly shake his head. Sure enough, he was worthy of being the number one on the Star Branch list. With such strength, even among the many monstrous geniuses in the entire Imperial City, he was still among the top. From start to finish, it only took about 10 seconds for the battle to end. The silver wings behind Ji Xian also dissipated, and he steadily landed on the ground. Humph, you can't even withstand a single blow. These 4 simple words were like a resounding slap to the faces of Yu Yi and the others. It was only at this moment that everyone realized how big the gap between Yu Yi's team and Shi Lan's team was. Good, very good. Yu Yi's entire face was livid with anger. He clenched his fists so hard that they made cracking sounds. He suppressed the anger in his heart and shouted in a deep voice, "Let's go!" Ha 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 ha, senior brother Ji Xian is bullying people the moment he returns? A burst of hearty laughter came from the back of the square. Everyone was startled at first, then they subconsciously looked in that direction, only to see a bright and energetic young figure sitting on a branch of a big maple tree at the back of the square. He was leaning against a tree trunk with a blade of grass dangling from his mouth. He had a frivolous and carefree temperament. Senior brother Xiao Yan? Everyone's eyes lit up. Senior brother Xiao Yan, you've returned as well? A commotion broke out in the square again. Xiao Yan was a genius ranked second on the Star Branch ranking. His direct mentor was Song Ching Lai, who was known as the Devil Lion. Haha, hello, junior brothers and sisters. Xiao Yan grinned and waved his hand to greet everyone. His bright and hearty smile was very amiable. Compared to Ji Xian, Xiao Yan was the opposite type. The former was more aloof and arrogant, while Xiao Yan's character was similar to Song Ching Lai. He was rough with a fine side. Cheng Ye, Ji Xian, Xiao Yan. These geniuses who were traveling outside returned one after another, reminding everyone that the time of the Academy martial competition was getting closer and closer. At that time, battles between dragons and tigers would play out in the entire city. Everyone can clearly see whether it's bullying or not. Ji Xian lifted his gaze slightly and looked at Xiao Yan with interest. But if you don't like it, we can have a spar. I don't have the leisure to fight with you, great genius Ji Xian. I'm just saying casually, don't take it to heart, hee hee. Up to you. Ji Xian smiled indifferently and didn't say anything further. Subsequently, he flashed down from the wooden stake formation and walked towards Xilan and the others. Lu Yu, He Qingyuan, Cheng Ye, and the others surrounded him. Senior brother Ji Xian, I thought you'd be a month late, Lu Yu said. Haha, I broke through to the 5th level of the core transformation stage early while I was outside, so I came back early. Ji Xian casually replied, and his gaze turned towards Xilan. Teacher, have you been well these days? Xilan's beautiful eyes spun as she glanced sideways at the nearby Chu Hen, and her red lips parted slightly as she spoke with a calm tone. I've been quite well. This slight movement of hers caused Ji Xian to be stunned, and he turned his gaze to look at Chu Hen as well. He glanced sideways and said, This ought to be teacher's new student Chu Hen, right? I've heard about you on the way here. Even someone like Wei Qingfan was defeated by you. It's really rare. Ji Xian's tone was relatively calm, and it gave off a gentle feeling. However, when Chu Hen met Ji Xian's gaze, he sensed an indescribable sharpness in the depths of Ji Xian's calm gaze. This kind of sharpness made Chu Hen feel extremely uncomfortable. However, Chu Hen did not reveal his inner feelings. He smiled politely and said, Senior brother Ji Xian, you're overpraising me. Most of the rumors outside are exaggerated. Senior brother, you don't have to take it seriously. Haha, I can still distinguish between true and false. Junior brother Chu Hen, you're so capable at such a young age. In the future, under teacher Xilan's guidance, I believe it won't take long for you to achieve great things. The conversation between the two of them caused the people around them to feel even more baffled. It seemed like Ji Xian had never praised someone like this before. Moreover, apart from being polite, there was an indescribable feeling. Was this the first time the two of them met? Could it be that they'd known each other before? At the side, Cheng Ye crossed his arms in front of him with an interested expression. Today's cultivation lesson ends here. You can cultivate on your own, Xilan said indifferently. Yes, teacher. Everyone nodded and prepared to pack up and disperse. Practice well, Xilan casually said to Chu Hen as she turned to leave. Chu Hen smiled and nodded. I understand. Chapter 163. The storm caused by the maple forest pile was easily resolved with Ji Xian's return. His strength was at the 5th stage of the core transformation realm, and he lived up to his reputation as the #1 person in Tensei Prefecture. Maple Forest. In the depths of the uninhabited maple forest, fiery red maple leaves danced in the sky, and the air was filled with layers and layers of vigorous waves. A handsome young man with a determined gaze was brandishing a black saber in his hand. It was a saber with a unique appearance but did not lose its might. The black saber's body was engraved with a pattern that looked like the fangs of a ferocious beast. There were 9 sharp teeth on the back of the saber, giving off a sharp aura. During the past 3 months, Chu Hen would practice his saber skills for 4 hours every afternoon. Sometimes, Shilan would give him pointers from the side as well. He would practice his spear skills in the morning, study his saber skills in the afternoon, and cultivate his runes and Reiki energy at night. During the past 3 months, Chu Hen repeated the same things every day. There was naturally some boredom, but feeling the increase in power in all aspects, Chu Hen was also extremely happy. Buzz! Swish! The limitless fangs slashed continuously in the air, setting off layers and layers of saber wave. Any maple leaves that were within 10 meters of Chu Hen were directly crushed by the domineering saber ray. The surging saber aura lingered around Chu Hen, and neat ravines appeared on the ground. Chu Hen was only practicing the basic saber skills. In Shilan's words, everything should start from the most basic. Only by laying a solid foundation would the future be easier. Wind-splitting slash! Chu Hen shouted and held the saber's hilt with both hands. The limitless Fang's body shone with a black radiance, and with a slash, a saber ray that was more than 10 meters wide struck a maple tree in front of him with an unstoppable aura. Bang! Wood splinters flew in all directions and the shock wave spread out. The tree was directly split in half. On the ground between the two, a deep and narrow ravine appeared next to Chu Hen's feet. Phew! Chu Hen let out a deep breath, and the aura around his body retracted. Then, he narrowed his eyes and said coldly, "Don't be sneaky. Since you're here, why don't you show yourself?" Hee buzz! Accompanied by a frivolous sneer, a violent gust of wind swept towards Chu Hen. The surging pressure was like a raging torrent. A beam of blue light swept out and flew straight towards Chu Hen. Chu Hen's pupils reflected the incoming stream of light, but he remained motionless. Bang! Dirt flew everywhere and rocks flew everywhere. At Chu Hen's feet, there was once again a ravine that was over 10 meters wide on the ground. Faint white smoke fluttered on the surface of the renovated soil. Chu Hen's face couldn't help but turn cold. Then, a young man with a teasing smile slowly walked out from behind a maple tree. Chu Hen frowned slightly and said coldly, "It's you." To Chu Hen's surprise, the person who came was Qingya. "Someone asked me to tell you." Qingya squinted at Chu Hen and said casually, "It's better for you to stay away from Mentor Shilan, especially in private. Don't stay with her." "Stay away from Mentor Shilan?" Chu Hen couldn't help but smile frivolously. "Did Ji Xian ask you to come?" It's good that you know." "I see." Chu Hen suddenly understood. No wonder Ji Xian looked at him strangely before. It turned out that the problem was here. It turned out that Ji Xian had always had a crush on Shilan. Of course, this was not strange. It was too normal. There were many people who liked Shilan, so many that it was impossible to count them. Although Shilan was a core mentor in Tensei Prefecture, she was not much older than the student. Not to mention that there was no such thing, even if there was, it was at most a love between an older sister and a younger brother. Ji Xian wanted to compete for Chu Hen's favor. It was not wrong to say that he wanted to compete with mentor Shilan. However, Chu Hen didn't care at all. He replied indifferently, "Don't put your self-righteous thoughts on me. I'm not interested in competing with him for favor in front of mentor Shilan. You can say whatever you want. However, I heard a few of them say that teacher Shilan thinks very highly of you. Originally, her lessons were held once every 5 days, but because of you, it has become once every 2 days. Also, I heard that the saber in your hand was given to you by mentor Shilan?" Chu Hen sneered. "You've heard quite a lot. But what does this have to do with you?" Chu Hen really couldn't stand Qingya's arrogant and conceited attitude. Especially when the other party didn't say anything and directly gave Chu Hen a show of strength. This made Chu Hen unable to bring up the slightest bit of good attitude and tone. You are indeed arrogant and conceited enough. However, I must remind you that those who go against senior brother Ji Xian in the Heavenly Star Martial House will not have a good ending. Qingya's tone had already become much colder. At the same time, a powerful aura was released from his body and suppressed Chu Hen. Do you know what kind of people I hate the most? Chu Hen was fearless. His deep eyes revealed a cold gleam. The first kind is self-righteous and doesn't know how to write the word respect. The second kind is people who rely on their master's power. Coincidentally, you have both of them. You're courting death. Qing Ye's expression instantly became incomparably ashen. A surging aura swept out, causing a layer of dried branches and leaves on the ground to be lifted up. In the next instant, a ball of blue light shot out from Qing Ye's body and rushed towards Chu Hen. In the process of moving at high speed, the blue light instantly transformed into the shadow of a ferocious wolf. It was aggressive and mighty. Chu Hen's eyes turned cold. With a flick of his wrist, a cold gleam flickered and the limitless fang swallowed and spat out a dense black glow. The momentum rose and the saber fell. Bang! The frightening blade light abruptly chopped the blue wolf phantom into pieces, and the violent shockwave spread for dozens of meters. The surrounding maple tree branches and leaves rustled and fell. The air was filled with the sound of waves, and many fallen leaves and branches on the ground were crushed into powder. Without waiting for Qing Ye to launch another attack, Chu Hen held his saber diagonally and an awe-inspiring domineering aura arose. If you dare to move again, I'll make sure your blood splatters on the spot. Qing Ye's face changed. He saw a talisman already appeared in Chu Hen's other hand. An obscure and violent extreme power was released from it. Humph, don't tell me you only know how to rely on the power of a high-grade talisman? That's still better than you relying on your master's power. Chu Hen ridiculed bluntly. Get out of my sight immediately. Qing Ye's face changed again and again. It was unusually unsightly. Originally, with his half-step core transformation stage cultivation, it was simply a piece of cake for him to bully Chu Hen. However, the power of a high-grade talisman did not allow him to ignore it. You asked for it. When the time comes and you can't survive in Tensei Prefecture, don't blame me for not reminding you. Humph. Qing Ye fiercely left behind a ruthless remark. He swung his sleeves angrily and turned to leave. Looking at the other party's disappearing figure in the forest, Chu Hen's face was similarly unsightly. He did not intend to cause trouble, but he was not afraid of trouble. Even if Ji Xian was the #1 person in Tensei Prefecture, as long as he bullied him, Chu Hen would definitely not hesitate to give the Devil Punisher spear away. Half an hour later, when Chu Hen returned to his residence, Mu Feng and Lei Zhen were not in the room. Recently, the two of them had been getting along very well. They were as close as real brothers. Of course, Lei Zhen was still rather courteous towards Chu Hen. He was not like Mu Feng, who would spout nonsense at the drop of a hat. In the room, Chu Hen began to repeat his previous cultivation. He released Reiki energy and merged his divine sense into his Naiwen palace. In the dim space, a nearly 2-meter-tall sapling shone with dazzling silver and golden light. Compared to the Dao seed that had just sprouted 3 months ago, the Dao seed had now grown into a street tree. The strength of the Reiki energy was more than 10 times stronger than it was at the beginning. Now, Chu Hen's inscriptionist realm had reached the 9th grade elementary inscriptionist realm. He was only 1 step away from the intermediate inscriptionist realm. Although it was only 1 step away, it was not easy to cross this step. However, once he entered the intermediate inscriptionist realm, the street tree could grow to more than 10 meters, and the strength of the Reiki energy would also increase greatly. Buzz! Immediately, Chu Hen raised his hands and placed his palms against each other. Traces of true primordial energy flowed out like a trickle and quickly gathered together, transforming into a crystal-clear rune. This rune was fiery red and bright like glass. It emitted an extremely hot wave of air. This rune was the Raging Fire rune. In the past 3 months, Chu Hen had never slacked on his study of the rune. Then, with a thought, the Raging Fire sigil dissipated, and another white sigil faintly appeared. Following that, Chu Hen successfully condensed a few more runes, one after another. After 3 months of non-stop cultivation, the effect was obvious. Chi, the silver heavenly thunder rune shone with a beautiful arc. Lightning arcs lingered on Chu Hen's palm, emitting an active and manic power. Looking at the heavenly thunder rune in front of him, Chu Hen could not help but think of what Qingye had said just now. He could only rely on the power of the advanced spiritual talisman. Humph, even if I don't use the advanced spiritual talisman, why should I be afraid of you? Chu Hen's eyes narrowed. He did not place Qingye in his heart, but Ji Xian's words caused Chu Hen to have no choice but to treat them seriously. Immediately, Chu Hen did not think about anything else. The true primordial energy in his palm changed, and the spirit-gathering rune was condensed. In an instant, the endless spiritual power of heaven and earth surged into Chu Hen's body. At the same time, 2 upper-grade primordial crystals appeared in his palms. The rich spiritual power surged and divided into 2 parts. One went to the Sea of Qi in his dantian, and the other to the Mud-Pill Palace in his brain. The all-school martial arts competition. There were still 2 months left. Wei Qingfan. Chapter 164. Western District of Tensei Prefecture. There was a wide square at the center of a lake here, and flowing water surrounded the square. The broad and majestic arch bridge crossed the river from the south that was more than 10 meters wide and reached the square at the center of the lake. In the morning, Chu Hen accompanied Li Hui, Zhou Lu, He Qingyuan, and the others to this square. This was the mission that Shi Lan had given them yesterday, and they had to defeat at least 20 opponents in the illusory killing formation. This is my first time coming to the illusory killing formation. Senior brother Qing Yuan, what is it like inside the formation? Li Hui was slightly expectant and slightly nervous. He Qingyuan smiled and replied, the illusory killing formation is a spirit formation that the Tensei Prefecture invited 3 high-level inscriptionists from the Imperial City to jointly set up. In order to build this formation, the Academy spent a huge amount of resources and financial resources. Just the high-grade origin crystal stones alone are more than 5 million. What? 5 million high-grade origin crystal stones? Li Hui could not help but gasp. Even Chu Hen could not help but narrow his eyes, and a look of surprise appeared on his face. That's right. In addition to other precious materials, the total cost of this illusory killing formation is nearly 10 million high-grade origin crystal stones. He Qingyuan sighed as well. When this illusory killing formation was built, the martial house was at its peak. Its purpose is to train the students' ability to fight and kill their enemies. When the illusory killing formation is activated, the students who are in the formation will enter an illusion. There will be all kinds of opponents in the illusion. The degree of reality is almost exactly the same as reality, just like fighting with an enemy in reality. Li Hui's eyes lit up, and then he asked, Senior brother Qing Yuan, since the Academy has such a good formation, why did we go to the Heaven Lake mountain range to train? We could just stay in the illusory killing formation and practice. You really think it's simple enough? Lu Yu rolled her eyes at him. No matter how real the illusion is, it's still an illusion. Although you will be injured in the illusory killing formation, you can choose to retreat when your life is in danger. But in reality, when you encounter a life-threatening situation, where should you retreat to? I understand, senior sister. Li Hui replied weakly. They couldn't help but smile at each other and shake their heads. I'm a little curious. Chu Hen, who had been silent all this while, suddenly spoke. Everyone looked at him in surprise. In its heyday, Tensei Prefecture was the top martial house in the imperial capital. How did it fall to such a state? Chu Hen voiced out the confusion in his heart. To be honest, the teachers of the Heavenly Star Martial House weren't bad. Shi Lan, Shadowless, Song Chunglai, and so on, they didn't lack outstanding instructors. Not only that, but they also had the wooden stake array, the illusionary killing array, and other facilities. It was reasonable to say that even if they were suppressed by the other academies, it was impossible for them to be at the bottom. However, as soon as Chu Hen asked this question, everyone looked at each other as if they were looking at a monster, and all of them were astonished. What's wrong? Chu Hen felt a little uncomfortable being stared at by everyone. Do you really not know, or are you pretending not to know? Zhou Lu asked tentatively. What do you mean really or not? However, seeing the confusion on Chu Hen's face, everyone looked at each other. Then, Zhou Lu said cautiously, the one who really suppressed Tensei Prefecture wasn't the martial houses in the imperial capital, but the person with the highest authority in the Sacred Star Dynasty. The person with the highest authority? The royal family? Chu Hen's pupils shrank. They didn't say anything, indicating that they agreed. What's going on? Zhou Lu pondered for a moment, hesitated, and still answered. Back then, Tensei Prefecture was prosperous, and countless geniuses gathered there. There was a young man named Gu Tong who was as bright as a star. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that he was the number one among the younger generation in the imperial capital. Gu Tong was extraordinarily talented and hard-working. However, the heavens were jealous of him. Gu Tong had a grudge with a person with a strong background. In a fit of rage, Gu Tong killed that person. After that person's family led people to Tensei Prefecture and asked Principal Jiang to hand him over. Principal Jiang was also a straightforward person. He thought that Gu Tong was innocent and refused to hand him over. In the end, the matter became bigger and bigger, and finally, it alerted the royal family. After many layers of connections, the royal family finally stood on the side of the family of the person who was killed and ordered Tensei Prefecture to hand over Gu Tong. Facing the pressure from the royal family, Principal Jiang still wanted to protect Gu Tong. Therefore, with the help of many of his good friends, he secretly sent Gu Tong out of the imperial capital. When Gu Tong escaped, the royal family naturally vented their anger on Tensei Prefecture. However, as there was no clear evidence to prove that Gu Tong was released by Principal Jiang, the royal family couldn't force a conviction. After all, Tensei Prefecture was like the sun at noon in the imperial capital at that time. However, one could imagine the result of going against the royal family. As a result, on the surface and in the shadows, all sorts of suppression came one after another. After several years, Tensei Prefecture had finally fallen to this state. After hearing Zhou Lu's account, Chu Hen also inwardly shook his head. Could the current sovereign be so unreasonable? The one in power today is not His Majesty the Emperor, but the Divine Empress, Zhou Lu. He Qingyuan directly shouted at her from the side. Zhou Lu shrunk her neck back, instantly realizing that she had spoken a little too much. He Qingyuan gazed at Chu Hen, Zhou Lu, and Li Hui, his tone still somewhat solemn. For this sort of matter, it's fine for us martial brothers and sisters to treat it as a joke. There's no need to delve too deeply into it. He Qingyuan was comparatively a rather wise and far-sighted person, and he also had a cautious personality. He knew what could be said and what couldn't be said in the capital. Zhou Lu was rather young and hadn't come into contact with many things, so her mouth was a little unrestrained. Chu Hen faintly smiled. I understand, Senior Qingyuan. Let's go. Today is the time for the first round of the grand array of illusions and deaths to open. Immediately, everyone quickened their pace, crossed the arch bridge, and arrived at the square in the middle of the lake. The diameter of the square in the middle of the lake exceeded a kilometer, and the area could be considered rather vast. On the square, there was a high platform with stairs that gradually increased in height. The high platform's construction was especially beautiful, piled up with white jade. It was about 2 meters tall, and the platform's length and width exceeded 100 meters. It was in the shape of a square. On the square platform there were 4 towering jade pillars. The jade pillars were located in each of the 4 corners, and each jade pillar was about 30 meters tall. Exquisite and complicated talismans were carved on them. Those 4 jade pillars are called spirit jade stones. They are used to gather the spiritual chi of heaven and earth for the operation of the grand array of illusions and death. The cost of each spirit jade stone exceeds 1,000,000 high-grade primal crystals. He Qingyuan explained to Chu Hen and the others to ease the awkward atmosphere. One spirit jade stone cost more than 1,000,000 high-grade primal crystals. Chu Hen instantly felt that he had become a real poor man again. It turned out that the more than 1,000 high-grade primal crystals he had were not even a fraction of the cost of a spirit jade stone. At this moment, 200 to 300 people had already gathered below the square platform. Every day, people who came here to wait to use the grand array of illusions and deaths would form a long line. 4 people who were in charge of the operation of the grand array of illusions and deaths stood below the steps. One of them was actually one of the senior instructors who led the team from Tianqi Mountain Range, Roshan. When they went to Tianqi Mountain Range for training, the core instructor Shilan led the team, and the 2 senior instructors, Zhua Mo and Roshan, assisted them. Later, because the team had to go to St. Bell City separately, Shilan ordered Roshan to bring the injured students and the students who were unwilling to go to St. Bell City back first. "Why is Instructor Roshan here?" Zhou Lu asked casually. "The grand array of illusions and deaths is not an ordinary talisman array. When it is in operation, a senior instructor must be here to manage it. The senior instructors take turns to be on duty," Lu Yu explained. Chu Hen and the others nodded. The fact that a senior instructor was in charge of the array was enough to show that the grand array of illusions and deaths was unusual. Then, under He Qingyuan's lead, Chu Hen and the others did not line up at the back. Instead, they walked directly to the bottom of the steps at the front. "Instructor Roshan," He Qingyuan said politely. "You're here." Roshan smiled slightly. "Instructor Shilan has already informed me. You can enter the array first. When the time is up, get ready to start." "Thank you." Amidst the envious and noisy voices of the crowd, He Qingyuan, Lu Yu, Chu Hen, Li Hui, and Zhou Lu walked to the square platform first. "Why did you cut the line? Even if you're Instructor Shilan's student, you can't do this." "Shut up. Don't you know that the core instructors can only recommend a few places every month?" "I really didn't know." "Blame yourself for not being neat and tidy. You can't become a direct student of the core instructors." "You're talking about me, but aren't you the same?" There was some commotion in the crowd. There were many students who had to use the grand array of illusions and deaths every day. Over the course of a month, they could not even train in it once or twice. Therefore, the academy stipulated that outstanding students would be given lenient treatment. The core instructors were responsible for recommending places. Those who received the recommendation did not need to wait in line and could directly enter the grand array of illusions and death. Although this was unfair to ordinary students, there was no such thing as absolute fairness in this world. The strong were supported by others, while the weak were mediocre for life. This was an indisputable fact no matter where it was. Following the others to the high platform, Chu Hen immediately felt an obscure energy fluctuation in the air. This fluctuation originated from the defensive level of the grand array of illusions and deaths. After all, the Academy had spent a huge amount of money to build this array. Its defensive capabilities must be perfect. Even the top experts of the void-piercing realm could not easily destroy this place. Carrying a bit of curiosity and faint excitement, Chu Hen's gaze swept over the jade spirit pillars that were separated in the 4 corners. When he saw the exquisite and mysterious glyphs on the jade spirit pillars, he could not help but be stunned. Chapter 165. These rune inscriptions are. Looking at the rune inscriptions carved on the 4 spiritual jade pillars, Chu Hen could not help but be stunned. With just a glance, he actually recognized all the rune inscriptions carved on it. What did each rune represent? What was its use? What kind of effect would be formed after they were arranged together? Chu Hen knew all of them with just a glance. If this matter were to spread out, many people would probably be shocked to death. One must know that this illusionary killing formation was jointly set up by three rather famous advanced rune masters in the imperial capital. The rune inscriptions on the 4 spiritual jade pillars were also carved by them. To ordinary people, the rune arrangement technique on it was definitely a secret that was not passed down. However, a new student from Tensei Prefecture could understand the meaning of this rune secret tome. How could people not be shocked? Of course, understanding it was one thing, but it was impossible for Chu Hen to condense and engrave these runes. At the very least, with Chu Hen's current standard as a rune master, he could only complete a basic rune arrangement. The knowledge that he had mastered naturally came from the content contained in the illusionary spirit bell's artifact spirit. Rumble. At this moment, a commotion came from below the stage. From the crowd that had parted, a gentle and elegant young girl with a beautiful face walked over with light steps. Bai Yuyue. Chu Hen raised his eyebrows slightly. If Mu Feng was here, he would probably be excited and infatuated with her. Bai Yuyue had an elegant and pure face, giving people a feeling that she was as gentle as water and as docile as a kitten. However, that was not the case. Under that gentle appearance, it was said that she had a very bad temper. Regarding this, Chu Hen could not verify it. However, from the love and hate in the eyes of the people around him, he could tell that this was not groundless. Bai Yuyue and Tutor Roshan exchanged a few words before they stepped onto the stage of the illusionary killing formation. Senior Sister Yuyue. He Qing Yuan and the others greeted her politely. Bai Yuyue nodded slightly. After a slight gesture, she waited by the side alone. It was almost time for the array to open. The people who were queuing below began to go up the steps one after another under the guidance of Mentor Roshan. It is recommended that students whose cultivation base is lower than rank 3 of the elemental opening realm do not participate in the training of the illusionary killing formation. Roshan said as she made a simple note. All the students could not wait any longer, and their faces were filled with excitement. Soon, more than 50 people gathered on the stage. Every time the illusionary killing formation was activated, the number of people would be controlled between 50 to 60. Buzz. Wow, senior brother Ji Xian is here. There's also senior apprentice brother Xiao Yan. I haven't seen them for a few months, but their auras have become so much stronger? Amidst the exclamations, everyone looked in 2 different directions. On one side was Ji Xian, who had an extraordinary temperament and a graceful demeanor. His handsome face caused many of the female students' hearts to flutter, causing them to reveal bashful expressions. Behind Ji Xian were Cheng Ye, Bian Hong, Wu Zhe, and a few others. On the other side, Xiao Yan walked over alone. He had a carefree smile on his face, making him look very amiable. Mentor Roshan, is there still a seat? Xiao Yan smiled warmly. Roshan looked back at the people on the stage, then shook her head and said, "At most, one more person can go up." "One person?" Xiao Yan spread his hands and shrugged. He said to Ji Xian, who was not far away, "You have more people, so you should wait for the next round." Ji Xian smiled indifferently. "What if I say no?" "Then what if I insist on this seat?" "Then you can try." Everyone present couldn't help but take a few steps back when they saw this. If they were to fight, they might be implicated as well. Of course, Mentor Roshan, who was in charge of management, would naturally not allow such a thing to happen. She hurriedly stopped the 2 of them and said, "The 2 of you should stop fighting. The illusory killing formation is based on the overall standard of the students in the formation. If the 2 of you participate, I'm afraid that it will increase the difficulty of the formation. After this round, I will activate the illusory killing formation for the 2 of you alone. Activate the illusory killing formation for Ji Xian and Xiao Yan alone." Everyone shook their heads and sighed in admiration. Geniuses always enjoyed special privileges. With regards to Roshan's suggestion, none of the students present had any objections. Xiao Yan smiled. Then we'll do as Mentor Roshan says. A playful smile appeared on Ji Xian's face. Behind him, Chengya walked forward with a smile. Since that's the case, then leave the last seat to me. Roshan nodded and did not say anything else. Chengya immediately walked onto the stage and headed straight for He Qingyuan, Lu Yu, and the others. Since they were all direct disciples of Mentor Shilan, their relationship was naturally better than the others. Of course, not everyone was like that. Hee, junior brother Chu Hen, we meet again, Chengya said with a strange smile. Chu Hen ignored it, as if he did not hear it. Chengya thought otherwise. Junior brother Chu Hen, in this illusory killing formation, there's no need to use those high-grade spirit talismans. You have to be careful. Thank you for your reminder, senior brother Chengya. I will keep it in mind. Chu Hen replied in an indifferent tone. Seeing the two of them like this, He Qingyuan, Li Hui, and the others were all astonished. What was going on? The two of them had only known each other for a few days, so why were they at odds with each other? Before everyone could figure out what was going on, Mentor Roshan's voice sounded. Everyone is ready. The illusory killing formation is about to be activated. Since it's the first time some of you are participating in the illusory killing formations training, let me give you a brief introduction. Once the illusory killing formation is activated, all of you will fall into an illusion. Inside, you will encounter all sorts of opponents, including demonic beasts and humans. It's important to mention that you will also be injured in the illusion, and the injuries will be carried over to the real world. So, if your life is in danger or you can't hold on anymore, immediately retreat from the illusion. The way to retreat is very simple. Gather your true inner force in your glabella acupuncture point, and you will be able to cut off the connection with the formation. Does anyone have any questions? No. Everyone answered in unison. Roshan nodded and immediately walked up to a 2-meter-tall stone tablet beside the stairs. The stone tablet was jade-colored, and it was also made of spirit jade. Exquisite and complicated patterns covered the surface of the tablet, and there was a circular groove in the center of the stone tablet. Under the watchful eyes of everyone present, Roshan took out a golden round plate. The round plate had silver flowing lights flickering on it, and it was very gorgeous. This round plate was the key to activating the illusory killing formation. Roshan skillfully placed the round plate into the groove on the stone tablet. In the next instant, a strange energy wave was instantly released from the stone tablet. Silver flowing lights blossomed like lightning, and immediately after, the 4 spirit jade pillars on the 4 sides of the high platform also flashed with incomparably bright golden light. Hua! Many students below the stage had expressions of surprise on their faces. The 4 spirit jade pillars that were more than 30 meters tall were enveloped in golden light, and the mysterious talisman patterns on the pillars were rapidly lit up like lightning. It looked like these 4 spirit jade pillars were divine metals that originated from the heavenly palace. Rumble! An incomparably powerful aura swept the entire stage, and the crisscrossing talisman patterns emitted a brilliant light. In an instant, dense golden light rapidly gathered on the surface of the platform and enveloped the entire high platform. On the platform, Chu Hen, Zhou Lu, Li Hui, and the others were all incomparably shocked. Moreover, a brilliant talisman pattern appeared on the ground beneath their feet, and the talisman pattern practically spanned across the entire platform. Everyone on the platform could clearly feel a powerful and strange energy surging towards them. Buzz! A dazzling white light flashed, and the environment in front of everyone instantly underwent a huge change. What appeared in front of Chu Hen was a dusky space. In the distance, there were mountains, rivers, and even a city, but all of them were dim and hazy, and appeared to be in a strange and distorted state. The sky above their heads was shrouded by dark clouds, and a crescent moon emitted a gloomy red light. The bleak cold wind had an indescribable, bone-piercing chill. Not far from Chu Hen, Li Hui, He Qingyuan, Zhou Lu, and the others were around 50 meters away from him. Everyone's faces were still filled with caution and solemnity. All of you, be careful. The enemy will appear very soon. He Qingyuan warned in a low voice. Whoosh, as he spoke, a sharp sword appeared in He Qingyuan's hand. Meanwhile, weapons appeared in the hands of Bai Yue, Lu Yu, Qingye, and the others one after another. This? Chu Hen was startled at first, but he quickly understood. In this illusion, he could summon the weapons he normally used according to his own will. Demon Slayer. Chu Hen was just about to summon the Demon Slayer spear, but after a thought, he focused his mind, and a sharp black saber appeared in his hand. Buzz buzz, not long after, a strange energy wave attacked them. A gray hazy shadow appeared in front of each of them. The shadow quickly solidified, and in the next instant, a ferocious demon beast appeared in front of everyone. Roar! Kill! The monstrous beast's roar and the crowd's battle cries immediately overlapped together. In front of Chu Hen was a 5-meter-tall violent bear. That raging aura, as well as the pungent stench emitted from its huge mouth, were exactly the same as in reality. Without saying anything, the violent bear directly pounced towards Chu Hen. Its powerful aura had reached the 6th level of the element opening realm. Chu Hen's eyes focused, and the black saber in his hand emitted a domineering demonic flame like true yuan. He leaped, and the dazzling saber light was like a huge wave that crossed the horizon. Hiss! Chapter 166. On the square in the middle of the lake in the southern district. At this moment, there were still many students coming to the square one after another, waiting in line to participate in the combat training in the illusionary killing array. Buzz! Buzz! On the high platform, 4 spiritual jade pillars stood at the 4 corners of the platform. They emitted a dazzling golden holy light as if they were 4 divine iron pillars. On the high platform, nearly 60 students from the Tensei Prefecture stood there motionlessly. Each of them had their eyes closed as if they were in a dream. Damn, it's getting boring waiting. So what if it's boring? If you're so capable, you can become a core instructor's direct disciple. There's no need to wait anymore. I wonder who killed the most enemies in this round of the illusionary killing array. Is there a need to ask? Of course, it's Bai Yue. Buzz. Whoosh. As soon as they finished speaking, a white light beam fell from the sky and enveloped a young girl on the high platform. Haha, see. I told you it's Bai Yue. Tisk, amazing. You're the only one who guessed it? The person that was enveloped by the silver light beam was Bai Yue. This meant that Bai Yue killed the most enemies in the illusionary killing array. Following that, a second white beam of light poured down, enveloping a young man within it. It's senior brother Qingye. Amazing! I heard that senior brother Qingye has been training outside for a few months. He fought with demonic beasts every day and has a lot of combat experience. Although he's only a half-step core transformation realm, his combat strength is not any weaker than a true core transformation realm expert. The beam of white light that shone on Qingye's body was slightly lighter than the one around Bai Yue's body. This also meant that the number of enemies that Qingye had defeated was second only to Bai Yue. Buzz. Buzz, then, a third white light beam quickly condensed in the sky above the high platform like a cloud hovering above everyone's head. Guess who's the third one? He Qingyuan. I also think He Qingyuan will win. As soon as he finished speaking, the third ray of white light, like the afterglow of the Milky Way, descended in He Qingyuan's direction. A few people in the audience revealed a proud smile. It was quite interesting to use this as a game to kill time during this waiting period. Wah! But when the beam of light descended, the crowd couldn't help but be stunned. The third beam of light didn't land on He Qingyuan's body, but on the figure of another youth standing next to him. This? Everyone below the stage was stunned. Even Instructor Roshan had a look of surprise on her face. Chu Hen? How can it be him? Is his cultivation higher than He Qingyuan's? It's probably because the demonic beasts we encountered in the early stages were weaker. There should be nothing left for him to do in a while. The 3 beams of light that descended from the 4 high platforms surrounded Bai Yue, Qingye, and Chu Hen. Among them, Bai Yue's beam of light was the brightest, while Chu Hen's was the darkest. These were the top 3 who defeated the most demonic beasts. If they were surpassed by others later on, the beam of light around them would also be replaced. Of course, the strength of the demonic beasts they encountered in the early stages was random. Although the strength of the demonic beasts varied, the difference was not too great. But the further they progressed, the stronger the demonic beasts became. Therefore, to the crowd, Bai Yue and Qingye occupying the top 2 spots was expected. As for Chu Hen, he was just lucky for now. This newcomer isn't bad. Xiao Yan, who stood at the front of the crowd, crossed his arms and rubbed his chin with one hand. He smiled with interest. Not far away, Ji Xian's eyes narrowed and the corner of his lips curled into a cold smile. Kill. Inside the illusionary killing formation. Even though the enemies in front of them were all illusions, everyone was extremely excited and they unleashed their own powerful attacks one after another. Bang! The scattered waves of energy exploded in the air. At this moment, Chu Hen's opponent was a barbarian soldier, who wore a helmet, was bare-chested, and held a long spear in his hand. The barbarian soldier was not weak. He was at the 8th level of the natal opening realm, 1 level higher than Chu Hen. Regardless of speed or strength, he surpassed the usual wuxiu. Chu Hen held the limitless fang and engaged in close combat with the barbarian soldier. As the barbarian soldier used a long spear, which was a mid-range weapon, Chu Hen stuck close to the barbarian soldier and attacked while sticking close to the barbarian soldier. Ha! The barbarian soldier continued to let out deep roars from his throat. He was being suppressed by Chu Hen's fighting style to the point that he felt extremely sullen. He could not use the long spear in his hand at all, and it was as if he had entered a narrow space. Soon, the barbarian soldier became mad. He suddenly let go of the long spear and clenched his right hand into a fist. An extremely powerful force burst out and hit Chu Hen's head. Go to hell! The 2 stiff words were filled with anger. Humph! A disdainful smile appeared on Chu Hen's face. A cold light flashed in his eyes and the limitless fang slashed down like lightning. Hiss! Blood splattered and the barbarian soldier's entire right arm flew off. Even half of his shoulder was chopped off by Chu Hen. The shrill scream was exactly the same as in reality. Even the blood that splashed on his face had a faint warmth. Chu Hen did not hesitate and slashed down with his black saber. The dazzling saber light was like a shooting star that crossed the night sky. The barbarian soldier's head that was wearing a helmet was thrown more than 10 meters away. Blood spurted out from the severed neck like a fountain, and the barbarian soldier fell to the ground powerlessly. Then, the corpse on the ground gradually became illusory. Even the blood that splashed on Chu Hen's face slowly disappeared. It's the 19th one. Chu Hen let out a long sigh and murmured softly. There was only one left to defeat the 20 enemies that Mentor Shilan had given him. Of course, 20 enemies was only the lowest standard. This standard was set for Li Hui and Zhou Lu. Chu Hen was not among them. At least for him, 20 enemies was not a lot. However, Chu Hen's result was already far ahead of most people. Moreover, at this time, there were already many people who could not hold on any longer. Roar! A young man on the left was caught off guard and was immediately pressed under the claws of a huge tiger-shaped monster with black fur. The monster's terrifying power was as strong as a mountain, and it directly suppressed the man to the point that he could not move. Seeing that the monster was about to bite down on him with its cold, sharp teeth, the man hurriedly channeled his true energy into his Yintang acupoint. Then, a ray of light flashed between the man's eyebrows. In the next moment, the man suddenly turned into a wisp of smoke and disappeared in the illusion. Once the connection with the illusion-killing formation was broken, it also meant that the man's combat training in the formation had stopped here. However, what made Chu Hen astonished was that even though the young man had left the illusionary killing formation, the black tiger monstrous beast was still there. The latter raised its huge head, and after letting out a roar, it directly charged towards the person closest to it. The person closest to it was none other than Bai Yue. Just as Chu Hen wanted to remind the other party, Bai Yue had already flashed away from her original spot. Her clear eyes flashed with a wisp of cold light. A dazzling light flashed. Bai Yue's lithe figure actually left a series of afterimages in the air. As the afterimages flew past, the huge black tiger-shaped monster instantly fell to the ground powerlessly. Immediately after, a neat wound faintly opened up in the middle of the tiger's head, and scarlet blood splattered everywhere. Chu Hen's pupils involuntarily shrank. What kind of move was this? Wasn't it too fast? Then, Chu Hen's attention fell on the weapon in Bai Yue's hand. It was a light saber, and its appearance was actually a little similar to the limitless Fang. It was more similar to a long sword. However, the sword had a blade on both sides, while the saber only had a blade on one side. The light saber that Bai Yue used was silver in color, as if silver snow was lingering around it, dazzling like a ray of light. After Bai Yue killed the black tiger-shaped demonic beast with a single slash, the enemy that she was facing previously had already rushed forward. It was a warrior wearing silver armor and wielding a heavy sword in his hand. His momentum was menacing. With both hands holding the heavy sword, the surging momentum of the sword was like a stormy sea, causing waves of vigorous vibrations. Based on this momentum, the opponent clearly possessed the strength of the 9th level of the element opening realm. However, there was not the slightest hint of panic on Bai Yue's cold face. Her figure moved nimbly like a spirit rabbit in the forest. When she was less than 2 meters away from the silver-armored warrior, Bai Yue lightly waved her white wrist. The hurried wind was abnormally sharp, and as the light saber danced, a long and narrow silver crescent light flashed through the air. It was as bright as a glimpse, and Chu Hen's pupils trembled once again. Bang! Accompanied by a heavy muffled sound, the silver-armored warrior with the strength of the 9th level of the element opening realm suddenly stopped moving. The silver armor on his body split open, and on his stiff and expressionless face, a thin blood-red line rapidly thickened. What a graceful saber technique! Chu Hen was extremely shocked, and his brows were filled with admiration. He had never seen Bai Yue in action before, but he did not expect her cultivation to be so strong. Especially the saber technique that she had just displayed, it was graceful and agile, gorgeous and powerful. In terms of a single move, Chu Hen could not see through the slightest flaw. In addition to being amazed, Chu Hen could not help but secretly want to learn from her. If he could learn the saber technique that Bai Yue had mastered, it would be of great help to him. Chu Hen, what are you doing? Be careful behind you! He Qingyuan shouted loudly. Chu Hen was shocked. He had been so focused on looking at Bai Yue that he had almost forgotten that there was a new opponent on his side. Swoosh, a cold light flashed, and a biting cold wind attacked. A swift and fierce black shadow suddenly rushed behind Chu Hen. Chu Hen backhanded and slashed out with the limitless Fang. A circle of vigorous saber light spread out, and both Chu Hen and the black shadow retreated. Chu Hen narrowed his eyes, and a solemn expression appeared on his face. This time, his opponent had the strength of the 9th level of the element opening realm. Chapter 167. In the illusionary killing formation. As time passed, more and more students who participated in the combat training were eliminated. Within the hazy and dark illusion, there were less than 20 people left. Bang! I can't take it anymore. Li Huiyi was knocked from the left to the right by a silver rhinoceros demonic beast, and then from the front to the back. He fell to the ground and complained incessantly, crying for his parent. Little Li, hang in there. You're still 3 away from the standard set by instructor Shilan. Not far away, Zhou Lu was also persevering bitterly. She was also 2 away from the 20 standard. Even so, the 2 of them had already given it their all, but it was still unbearable. Not only them, even He Qingyuan and Lu Yu were gradually unable to hold on. Of course, the 2 of them had already defeated 20 enemies. In comparison, Chu Han was fighting the enemies with ease, and he didn't seem to be under any pressure at all. Bang! The falling teeth saber's momentum was astonishing, and its power was strong. Even though Chu Han was facing an enemy whose battle prowess had reached the 9th level of the element opening realm, he was still not at a disadvantage with his cultivation level of the 7th level of the element opening realm. Chu Han's opponent was a black-clothed man, who wore a ghost mask on his face. Through the mask, one could vaguely see his lifeless eyes. The opponent's weapon was a long sword. His swordsmanship couldn't be said to be exquisite, but it had a certain standard. Among the ranks of the 9th level of the element opening realm, his battle prowess was considered average. However, in the process of Chu Han facing the enemy, most of his attention was on Bai Yue. Bai Yue's lily-white hands held the light saber. Every round of attack and defense was as smooth as flowing water. It was so perfect that there was almost no fault to be found. One move after another, the connection was perfect, causing Han Chen to feel more and more delighted. However, Bai Yue also noticed that there was a pair of eyes staring at her. Of course, this was not the first time this happened, and she was already used to it. There was no lack of people who wanted to secretly learn Bai Yue's saber technique. However, all of them failed without exception. Putting aside the fact that the moves of her saber technique were unique, agile, and graceful, ordinary people couldn't even see through it, let alone learn it and put it to use. But even if he understood the moves, he could only imitate them. There was a world of difference between the two. However, what Bai Yue didn't expect was that the person who was watching her was a little different from the others. What she didn't know was that her opponent had a pair of monstrous eyes that could see through a person's true essence. The depths of Chu Han's pupils had unknowingly turned into an obscure purple color. From the beginning to the end, he could clearly see the flow of Bai Yue's true essence, as well as every move she made with her saber. Even the slightest movement was deeply imprinted in Chu Han's mind. The more he saw, the more pleasantly surprised Chu Han was, and the more he liked Bai Yue's saber technique. Towards the end, Chu Han deliberately slowed down his battle with the black-clothed men. He only used defense and didn't attack. His mind was completely focused on Bai Yue. Roar! After defeating more than 30 opponents in a row, a one-horned fire ape appeared in front of Bai Yue. The fire ape's entire body was wrapped in scorching flames. It had already reached the rank of a second-grade spirit beast, which was equivalent to Wu Xiu's second-level core transformation stage. This was definitely a strong opponent. Roar! Once the one-horned fire ape appeared, its berserk energy directly shook the surroundings. Layers upon layers of vigorous energy waves swept out, and the scorching energy waves were full of powerful flames. The enraged one-horned fire ape charged toward Bai Yue. It leaped into the air like a meteorite, and its momentum was unstoppable. However, when faced with the menacing one-horned fire ape, Bai Yue's elegant face didn't show the slightest hint of panic. Just when the one-horned fire ape reached the highest point of 30 meters, Bai Yue's toes tapped the ground and she leaped up like a nimble butterfly. When she was less than 2 meters away from the one-horned fire ape, the light saber that flickered with a holy silver radiance was swung out like lightning, shadow moon dance. Along with Bai Yue's soft shout, a powerful aura of death immediately enveloped the one-horned fire ape. Swoosh! Bai Yue immediately flashed a series of afterimages in the sky, and the afterimages flashed past the one-horned fire ape's side like a ghost. The airflow between heaven and earth fell into an unprecedented rapid flow. A piercingly cold whirlwind stacked up, and like a tornado, it trapped the one-horned fire ape in all directions. Hiss! A dozen meters long resplendent crescent moon suddenly appeared in the sky, and it passed through the fire ape's body. In the next moment, Bai Yue's figure flashed and once again transformed into a series of illusory afterimages that flashed to the other side of the one-horned fire ape. Another crescent moon that was more than 10 meters long flashed past the fire ape. This is... Chu Hen's pupils shrank slightly, and his expression changed slightly. His hands involuntarily clenched into fists. Every time Bai Yue swung her sword, a series of afterimages would appear, and she would change her position. What shocked Chu Hen the most was her opponent's speed. It was simply so fast that if he didn't have a pair of demonic eyes, he probably wouldn't even be able to catch up to the corner of Bai Yue's clothes. Looking from afar, it looked like there were 6 or 7 Bai Yue attacking the one-horned fire ape from different angles, and the latter was completely suppressed in an extremely small space. Every time it wanted to move, the torrent-like aura would restrict its movements. With every slash, a crescent moon shadow would appear in the sky, and the scene was gorgeous, as if Bai Yue was dancing under the bright moon in a short period of time. Bai Yue swung her sword a total of 9 times. When the 9th streak of silver moonlight flashed across the sky, Bai Yue then flashed back to the ground. Subsequently, with a loud bang, the one-horned fire ape's huge body fell heavily onto the ground. 9 places on its body were split open with bloody wounds, and every wound was so deep that the bone could be seen. It was especially fatal. Beautiful. It was simply beautiful. Chu Hen's face was filled with many unconcealable amazement. Bai Yue was indeed an amazing girl. The shadow moon dance just now gave people the feeling that it was a bright and beautiful aurora that streaked across the sky in the darkness. Other than being gorgeous, its lethality was also extremely strong. Today's training in the illusionary killing formation was really worthwhile for Chu Hen. He had already seen through the rhythm of Bai Yue's moves and remembered them in his mind. Chu Hen thought that after he went out, he would definitely study it properly. Chu Hen, why are you still in a daze? Do you want to die? He Qingyuan's reprimanding voice came again. Since the beginning, Chu Hen had been absent-minded, especially since his opponent was at the 9th level of the element opening realm. This was simply treating his own life as a joke. Although this was an illusion, if he was really injured and couldn't retreat in time, he would still lose his life. I guess junior brother Chu Hen can't take it anymore. As your senior brother, I'd better help you out. Accompanied by a strange laughter, the sound of rushing wind suddenly came from behind Chu Hen. Chu Hen was startled, and in a hurry, he quickly dodged to the side. However, it was still too sudden. Caught off guard, a solid blue light brushed past the left side of Chu Hen's ribs and hit the black-clothed man beside Chu Hen. Hiss! This blue light possessed an extremely powerful killing power. The chest of the black-clothed man was instantly pierced, and a string of blood splattered in the air. The black-clothed man staggered a few steps, and finally powerlessly fell to the ground. Subsequently, the black-clothed man's body gradually became illusory, and slowly disappeared. When they saw this scene, the nearby He Qingyuan, Lu Yu and the rest all revealed astonished expressions. However, in an instant, Chu Hen's face was covered in a dense frost. His ice-cold eyes were like sharp swords as they swept towards a young man behind him. The one who had just attacked was none other than Qingye. I'm sorry, junior brother Chu Hen, I almost injured you. Are you alright? Qingye had a frivolous and ridiculing smile on his face, his tone not the slightest bit apologetic. If Chu Hen hadn't dodged in time, the one who would have fallen now would not only be his opponent. Chu Hen's expression became increasingly unsightly. It turned out that this bastard had come with the goal of plotting against him from the very beginning. He pretended to help, but in reality, he wanted to injure him. This was intolerable. Did I allow you to attack just now? Chu Hen's voice was as cold as an icicle. Junior brother Chu Hen. He Qingyuan hurriedly spoke up to dissuade him. Although the few of them didn't know why the two of them had come to blows when Ching-ya had just returned, they all understood that if Chu-hen were to compete with Ching-ya, he wouldn't be able to gain the slightest advantage. Ching-ya disapproved, and his face was filled with ridicule. "Hee hee, isn't it good that I helped you? You should be thanking me." "Thanking me?" Chu-hen sneered. A surging aura shot into the sky, and the black blade in his hand flickered with a chilling luster that caused one's heart to palpitate. "Then I'll properly thank you now. Senior brother Chu-hen, don't be rash." Li Hui, who was already lying on the ground by the giant rhinoceros demonic beast, also tried to dissuade him. However, the current Chu-hen couldn't listen to anything. There was nothing more infuriating than being bullied for 2 days in a row. A sneak attack from behind, Chu-hen's eyes turned cold. The black blade was like a flickering light, and his attack was like lightning, directly attacking his opponent's head. "Humph." Ching-ya laughed disdainfully. "Stupid thing, you're courting death. You can't blame me." Vigorous blue true origin energy floated up Ching-ya's arms, and a sharp dagger instantly appeared in his palm. Boom! In the next instant, the black saber collided with the sharp dagger. Chapter 168. Boom! Shockingly chaotic energy waves were released wantonly. Under the various gazes from the surroundings, the black saber in Chu-hen's hand collided head-on with Ching-ya's dagger. A powerful airflow spread out, and the surging true essence energy was like sparks flying in all directions. The two people's weapons crossed and resisted each other. The blue luster and black radiance on the weapons were like two streams that intertwined and tore at each other. The other people in the illusion were all stunned. Chu-hen was actually at a disadvantage in a head-on clash with Ching-ya, who had the strength of a half-step core transformation realm. This was a little unexpected. Chi-chi, the true essence energy released from the two people's bodies, constantly collided with each other. Chu-hen held the saber hilt with both hands, his brows extremely gloomy. Ching-ya's brows were also tightly knitted, and the veins on his arms bulged. He was secretly astonished that Chu-hen's strength was actually so strong. Was it because the weapon that instructor Shilan gave to Chu-hen was powerful? Ching-ya quickly rejected this thought. After all, this was an illusion. Although one could use their consciousness to create the weapon they normally used, the characteristics and strength that the weapon normally possessed would not be reflected. In other words, the black saber in Chu-hen's hand had the same appearance as the limitless tooth, but in reality, it was only the appearance and not the real limitless tooth. The strength of the weapons that everyone present was about the same. "Humph, your strength is not small, but do you think you can defeat me with brute force?" Ching-ya sneered in disdain. A dazzling blue light erupted from his other hand and grabbed at Chu-hen's face. As he moved, the blue light that lingered on Ching-ya's arm instantly transformed into the phantom of a beast claw. The sharp claws tore through the air and emitted a dense aura of danger. Chu-hen's pupils slightly narrowed. At the same time that he bent his body to dodge, he withdrew the black saber and slashed with a backhand. A resplendent saber light swept toward his opponent's waist. Ching-ya waved the dagger in his hand and directly shattered the saber light. Then, the palm that transformed into the phantom of a beast claw once again pushed forward and struck toward Chu-hen's chest. "Useless thing, get down!" Ching-ya's attack was astonishing. The solid beast claw shadow was extremely powerful. The surrounding air was pushed forward rapidly, creating all kinds of wave. He Qingyuan, Lu Yu, Zhou Lu, and the others who were at the other side had anxious expressions on their faces when they saw that Chu-hen was unable to dodge this palm strike. However, everyone was occupied with their own enemies and couldn't care less about what was happening over there. They couldn't stop it even if they wanted to. What was even worse was that new enemies had already appeared behind Ching-ya and Chu-hen. One of them was a huge albino crocodile that was over 20 meters wide, and the other was a crack fire python that was over 30 meters wide and as thick as a water tank. Humph, shameless boasting. Chu-hen paid no heed to Ching-ya's ferocious attack. He focused his left hand, and a ball of demonic purple light intertwined with the powerful black light, rapidly converging at the center of his palm. Rumble, the violent power stirred up a wave of rolling thunder. A layer of illusory palm imprint immediately expanded. With an incomparably heavy explosion, the two palm forces firmly clashed and collided. The explosive energy turbulence was like the crisscrossing of a thunderstorm. A powerful shockwave spread out between the two of them. A ferocious force swept in all directions. Gorgeous and dazzling true origin energy wantonly scattered. Under everyone's shocked gazes, the purple light outside of Chu Hen's body actually faintly suppressed Qing Ye's true yuan by a bit. The beast claw image that lingered on the latter's left palm instantly shattered into pieces. Qing Ye's expression could not help but change. He had truly underestimated Chu Hen's strength. At this moment, the new opponents that the Great Illusion Killing Formation had assigned to the two of them directly launched a ferocious attack at Chu Hen and Qing Ye. However, the two of them didn't seem to have any intention of paying attention to their new opponents. As they fought, they flashed and retreated towards another area. Bang! As Chu Hen and Qing Ye retreated, the huge giant alligator and crack fire python also chased relentlessly. Wherever the two of them went, they fought. The two powerful demonic beasts also chased after them. In this way, the surrounding people had fallen into a trap. Originally, at this time, the people who had gone through a series of high-intensity battles were all exhausted and somewhat unable to hold on. The chaotic shockwaves caused by the battle between Chu Hen and Qing Ye had already affected the others quite a bit. What was even worse was that there were still two big fellows following behind them. The giant albino alligator and the crack fire python didn't seem to recognize people. The two huge fellows swept across the battlefield in the surrounding areas. F***CK. Damn you! One by one, the students who were on the verge of collapsing were met with this unexpected disaster. They were either sent flying 7 to 8 meters away, or knocked to the ground by their opponents due to the effects of the illusion. Helpless, these people could only accept their bad luck. They cut off their connection with the formation and retreated from the illusion. Senior Brother Chu Hen, Senior Brother Qing Ye, stop messing around. Qing Yuan bitterly held on, completely not in the mood to continue fighting with his opponent. As for Li Huiyi and Zhou Lu, these two people who could not hold on any longer, they found an excuse to retreat. Among the crowd, the only one who was not affected was Bai Yuyue. She continued to deal with the troubles in front of her without a care in the world. Chu Hen and Qing Ye had long since fought with their true strength. How could they stop so easily? Not long after, the entire illusion-killing formation was practically turned upside down by the two of them. All sorts of violent true essence power wantonly flew everywhere. Towards the end, even Qing Yuan and Lu Yu could not stay any longer. They channeled their true essence into their Yintang meridian and retreated from the illusion. At the center of the lake. What's going on? How did everyone come out so quickly? The crowd gathered in the plaza began to make all sorts of noises and sounds of confusion. The crowd on the 4 high platforms began to wake up one after another, and all of them were covered in dirt and grime, gnashing their teeth in anger. Looks like there's a problem inside. Xiao Yan rubbed his chin and looked at Ji Xian nearby with interest. Why are you looking at me? Ji Xian looked indifferent. I'm here. If there's a problem inside, do you think it has anything to do with me? That's hard to say. Who doesn't know that your senior brother Ji Xian's strength is outstanding? Even if he's standing outside, he can stretch his hand inside. Ji Xian snorted softly and ignored him. At this moment, Qing Yuan's body trembled. He opened his eyes and a helpless expression appeared on his face. The crowd below the square was even more surprised. Even Roshan and the other teachers who were in charge of management were confused. Someone below the platform could not help but ask, Senior Brother Qing Yuan, why did you come out so early? What exactly happened inside? Did you meet a super opponent? A bitter smile appeared on He Qingyuan's face. Don't mention it. Chu Hen and Qing Ye almost turned the place upside down. We were all thrown out. What? Everyone was extremely shocked. Only then did they realize that only by Yue Chu Hen and Qing Ye had yet to awaken. Teacher Roshan frowned. She then said to the people in charge of management beside her, "Stop operating the illusion formation." Yes. In the next moment, under Roshan's guidance, they performed a few hand seals at the stone tablet beside the steps. The light from the bright stone tablet immediately dimmed. Then, Roshan reached out with her right hand. A powerful suction force was released from her palm and imprinted on the golden disc at the center of the stone tablet. There was a slight vibration in the air. The compass in the center of the stone tablet was taken out. In an instant, the aura of the jade spirit pillars that stood at the four corners of the high platform quickly retracted. The flickering silver runes on the pillars rapidly faded and dimmed. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth that enveloped the platform returned to the four jade spirit pillars like a whale sucking in water. The illusion formation then stopped operating. Immediately after, Bai Yue was the first to awaken. Chu Hen and Qing Ye followed closely behind, without waiting for everyone to understand what was going on. Chu Hen's opened eyes emitted a chilling intent. Sing! A clear metallic sound rang out, and the demon Punisher spear astonishingly appeared in his hand. Without saying a word, Chu Hen stood up with the spear in his hand. Black tyrannical True Yuan rose like the black flames of the nine underworld. The cold and stern killing intent was as bone-piercing as the bleak cold wind. Chu Hen leapt up, and the demon Punisher spear spat out a 3-foot spear aura. Circles of vigorous air waves lingered around the body of the spear like a small whirlpool. The unstoppable might of the spear directly attacked Qing Ye in front of him. "Humph, you're courting death!" A ferocious glint surged within Qing Ye's eyes. Endless true essence erupted and rose like floodwaters. Both of his palms were thrown forward, and a layer of solidified blue light curtain appeared in front of him, forming a powerful shield. Foolish thing! You want to harm me with just this bit of strength? Bang! As his voice faded, the spear in Chu Hen's hand directly and solidly struck the blue light screen in front of his opponent. Violent energy fluctuations rose like giant waves on the surface of water. Following an incomparably heavy explosion, the blue light screen that everyone originally thought would not be broken by Chu Hen was forcibly blasted apart on the spot. Heavens! This fellow? A chaotic blue wave of air blossomed on the platform. He Qingyuan, Lu Yu and the others on the high platform were pushed back one after another. The swift and fierce spear rapidly pierced towards Qing Ye's throat like a hot knife through butter. Qing Ye was startled, the panic in his eyes fleeting. He dodged to the side, and the sharp spear edge brushed past his right shoulder. The powerful spear light tore through the air, forming an invisible blade of air. Under the slash of the blade of air, a tiny trace of blood immediately flowed out from Qing Ye's neck. What? Chapter 169. Hiss! The incomparably powerful spear light tore through the air and brushed past Qing Ye's right shoulder. A strand of invisible air blade that covered the tip of the spear instantly cut a bit of the skin on Qing Ye's neck, and a fine red line seeped out. The appearance of this scene caused everyone present to be extremely astonished, and all of them were dumbstruck. Fuck, are you kidding me? Qing Ye has the strength of a half-step core transformation stage expert. Is this fellow Chu Hen going to defy the heavens? Qing Ye was probably careless. He should be able to turn things around in a while. Even though the illusionary killing formation had stopped operating, Chu Hen still did not plan to let it go just like that. Qing Ye's actions in the illusionary killing formation were truly extremely vexing. If Chu Hen had not dodged in time, he would probably have been carried off the stage by now. Swift and fierce spear shadows continuously transformed and took form, attacking wave after wave towards the various vital points on Qing Ye's body. The weapon Qing Ye used was a dagger. If he wanted to gain an advantageous offensive, he would have to stick close to Chu Hen and attack. However, from the beginning to the end, Chu Hen did not allow his opponent to get close. He completely controlled the distance between them to a position where the spear could be used. An inch longer, an inch stronger advantage was displayed to the fullest by Chu Hen. No matter how fast your reaction is, how can you be faster than me? Ching-ya coldly snorted. Then, he leaped up and directly flew into the air. He stepped on the body of the Devil Punisher's spear and pounced towards Chu Hen. His nimble movement speed was like a cheetah pouncing on its prey. Ching-ya flipped in midair, and the dagger was placed horizontally in front of him as he rapidly stabbed towards Chu Hen's head. His movements were as fast as a dragonfly touching water. The expressions of everyone present involuntarily changed as they cried out in their hearts. This Ching-ya can't be thinking of killing Chu Hen, right? Ching-ya, don't cause trouble, Roshan coldly shouted in a sweet voice. She was just about to step forward to stop the two of them, but she was stopped by Ji Xian. Haha, Mentor Roshan, don't worry. Ching-ya knows what he's doing. He just wants to teach a lesson to those rookies who are too aggressive and make them restrain themselves. This is for their own good, don't you think so? Roshan's fine eyebrows faintly knitted together. However, it was already too late at this moment. Ching-ya's attack had already arrived in front of Chu Hen. The dagger flickering with a blue luster seemed to have been tempered in venom, sinisterly cold and incomparably dangerous. Hee. Ching-ya's face revealed a sinister smile. Arrogant and conceited thing, I'll make sure that you won't even have the time to use the talisman. Humph, there's no need to waste my talisman on trash like you. Chu Hen sneered. Buzz, before his voice faded, a powerful aura erupted from within Chu Hen's body, accompanied by a bone-chilling ice xianqi. Dozens of sharp icicles grew out of nowhere on the stage. The sharp icicles were like bamboo shoots that sprang out after the rain. They shot out from below, emitting an unstoppable penetrative force. Ching-ya's expression changed. If he used this attack, it was likely that he would be pierced through by the sharp icicles at the same time his dagger pierced into Chu Hen's body. In his haste, Ching-ya hurriedly withdrew his attack. Raising his palm, he struck the dozens of icicles below. After shattering a few rows of icicles, he used the recoil from the force of his palm to retreat backwards. However, it was also at this moment that a hurried wind rushed over. A series of spear images erupted from the spear that was twined with black light. A solid spear glow shot out from the tip of the spear like an aurora, solidly smashing into the front of Ching-ya's body. Bang! A heavy muffled sound rang out in the air. A scattered wave of true essence blossomed like a halo, and a force that was comparable to a mountain swept over. Ching-ya was directly sent flying. This, everyone below was stunned. Ching-ya, who was at the half-step core transformation stage, was actually unable to even enter Chu Hen's body? This was truly somewhat difficult to accept. Thud! Ching-ya somersaulted in the air, before landing on the stage in a half-squatting position. His feet dragged on the stone floor for over a dozen meters before coming to a stop. What was even more shocking was that there was actually a faint trace of blood hanging from the corner of Ching-ya's mouth. Chu Hen's attack just now had actually injured the other party. You shameless thing, your life is quite tenacious. Chu Hen held the Devil Punisher's spear at an angle, surging true essence lingering around his body like circular ripples. His grave and stern eyes were like a blade, filled with disdain. You don't be happy too early. Ching-ya's eyes were scarlet red, and his teeth made cracking noises as he gritted them. Being looked down upon by a person whose cultivation was weaker than his was simply intolerable, especially in front of so many people. Today, if he did not make Chu Hen's blood splash 5 steps away, he would not be able to swallow this resentment. Rumble! In the next instant, a torrential aura rose from Ching-ya's body. Blue light patterns intersected as they soared into the sky. Everyone present could feel the ruthless aura that originated from Qing Ye's body. The air flow on the entire stage instantly became especially chaotic, and a powerful aura surged towards Chu Hen like a torrent. Under the astonished gazes of the crowd, a dense blue light wrapped around Qing Ye's body and rapidly formed the phantom of a fierce wolf. This is the bloodline limit of the demon wolf war body. Senior brother Qing Ye is angry. Instructor Roshan, hurry up and stop him. Zhou Lu, Li Hui, and the others hurriedly walked forward and said. Without waiting for Roshan to speak, Ji Xian indifferently said, "There's nothing to worry about. Qing Ye won't do anything to him. Don't worry." But, haha, I'm curious to hear who will win. Hearty laughter rang out, and Xiao Yan's lips curled into a faint smile. Senior brother Xiao Yan, you? Hee, just you wait. I see that junior brother Chu Hen doesn't seem to be panicking at all. However, hearing Xiao Yan's words, the few of them unconsciously relaxed slightly. Indeed, back in St. Bell City, even when facing a genius like Wei Qingfan, Chu Hen had caused him trouble. Although Qing Ye was also very powerful, there was still quite a gap between him and Wei Qingfan. Ji Xian's eyes narrowed slightly, and he sneered inwardly. Humph, he's just relying on external force to take away a high-grade spirit talisman. What ability does he have? Rumble. Qing Ye's aura rose steadily, and the image of the ferocious wolf that enveloped him grew clearer and more solid. In the blink of an eye, the image of a ferocious wolf that was over 10 meters tall had appeared before everyone's eyes. The wolf's appearance was extremely mighty. Its back was covered in blue fur, and its abdomen was white. Moreover, there was a pair of white wings on its back that were over 30 meters wide when they were spread open. A violent gale swept through the arena, and it seemed like a ferocious beast was standing before Chu Hen. Qing Ye stood within the image of the wolf, and the veins on his body bulged while his expression was ferocious. Obviously, he was enduring an extremely enormous force. Stinking brat, you asked for it. I won't kill you, but I'll make you lie in bed obediently for a year and a half. Ow! The howl of a wolf, as if it was a real one, pierced through the 9 heavens. Then, Qing Ye's body moved, and like a wolf pouncing on its prey, he flew out. Along with the demon wolf illusion with peerless might, he charged towards Chu Hen. The image of the wolf bared its fangs and brandished its claws, and it revealed a ferocious light. The formidable attack that was vast like a mountain poured down, and the entire high platform fell into a state of restlessness. The expressions of countless people below the platform changed when they felt the might that erupted from Qing Ye's killer move. The might of this move was comparable to the strength of a core transformation realm expert, and besides Ji Xian, Xiao Yan, and Bai Yuyue, there was probably no one else present that could withstand it. However, at the same time, the true origin energy outside Chu Hen's body swiftly converged like a stream before him. In the blink of an eye, a red-colored talisman mark that seemed like a colored glass appeared before him. The scorching and restless fluctuation of energy was like the lava of a volcano that was brewing. That's the St. Bell City's blazing curse? Exactly, the blazing curse. Along with the exclamations of the crowd, the space before Chu Hen suddenly trembled. The blazing curse before him suddenly bloomed into a layer of blazing light that shot into the sky. The pupils of Ji Xian, Xiao Yan, Bai Yuyue, and the other geniuses shrunk slightly. Even Instructor Roshan's face was filled with shock. The students who had been to St. Bell City before could not help but suddenly realize that the blazing curse that Chu Hen obtained was actually the blazing curse. The surging flame light screen was like a raging wave on the surface of the sea, and it directly shot into the sky dozens of meters high. The violent power of the curse was so powerful that it was simply shocking. Don't think that a small flame barrier can stop me. You're too naive. Qing Ye roared angrily. However, before his voice could fade, a huge flaming hand that was more than 10 meters wide suddenly stretched out from the flame light screen that shot into the sky. This huge flaming hand was like the hand of the god of fire that could destroy the world. The scorching temperature caused the space to burn and distort indeterminately. Subsequently, under countless shocked gazes, the huge flaming hand directly collided with the demon wolf silhouette. Boom! The blazing curse, demon wolf battle physique. The moment the two violent powers intersected, it was like two torrents of water clashing against each other. The blue light and the red flames overlapped, constantly clashing and tearing at each other, forming a ring of chaotic power. In an instant, the sky and earth dimmed a little. The entire high platform violently shook without end. The powerful shock waves spread out like ripples on water, and countless students below the platform were shaken to the point that they continuously retreated. If it wasn't for the illusion-killing formation's defensive formation, such a violent power fluctuation would have directly caused it to collapse. Roar! Under the constant assault of the flames, the demon wolf silhouette outside Cheng Ya's body continuously dimmed. "Let's see what else you can do," Cheng Ya roared angrily. His eyes were bloodshot, and he relied on a ferocious force to withstand the power of the blazing curse. As soon as he finished speaking, a dazzling light flashed, and another bright rune appeared in front of Chu Hen. However, this rune was as white as a snowflake. "This is?" Countless people below the platform immediately narrowed their eyes, and their faces were filled with shock. Frost curse? Oh my god! He actually grasped two curse runes. Chapter 170. Frost sigil? Oh my god! He actually grasped two curse sigil runes. Looking at the snowflake-like, sparkling runes that condensed in front of Chu Hen, the expressions of everyone below the stage changed drastically, especially those students who had been to St. Bell City. All of them widened their eyes, their faces filled with disbelief. It must be known that even Wei Qinfan, Shin Yunxi, Bai Yue, Long Xuan, these rather famous geniuses, had only obtained one curse sigil. Yet, Chu Hen had actually obtained two in a row. Before everyone could recover from their shock, the frost sigil in front of Chu Hen erupted with an extremely chilling ice profound energy. The fog-like power of frost surged towards Cheng Ya in front of him. Crack! With Chu Hen at the center, the stage immediately condensed into ice, and a thick layer of ice rapidly spread toward Cheng Ya. The bone-chilling energy caused Cheng Ya to involuntarily shiver, and the circulation of his true yuan instantly became especially sluggish. In the blink of an eye, Cheng Ya was surrounded by a thick layer of ice in a narrow space. Insignificant tricks. Cheng Ya's eyes turned cold, and an even more surging true yuan was born in his dantian's qi. In an instant, the demon wolf phantom that lingered around his body once again solidified. However, at this moment, a layer of ice that was over 2 meters thick simultaneously rose from Cheng Ya's left, right, and back. The three ice curtains were like small icebergs, directly sealing off Cheng Ya's three paths of retreat. At the same time, the three ice curtains rapidly rose, with an unstoppable aura. It pressed down on the demonic wolf in the middle. Countless icicles sprouted out of the thick ice wall at a rapid speed. The icicles were unstoppable, directly piercing through the demon wolf phantom like piercing through tofu, and extended toward the interior of Cheng Ya. The appearance of such a scene was truly an eye-opener for the countless students present. Chu Hen's move was simply magnificent. Cheng Ya, who was in the middle of the three ice curtains, seemed to have fallen into a trap. The countless icicles had completely locked the demonic wolf within. No matter how much it struggled, it was unable to escape. Cheng Ya was shocked to the extreme, and panic surged into his eyes. Then, the phantom of the demon wolf disappeared. Cheng Ya didn't say anything and rushed out from the only direction that wasn't blocked by the ice curtain. However, without waiting for Cheng Ya to escape from his predicament, Cheng Ya felt his throat go cold as a sharp piercing pain caused his scalp to go numb. "If you dare to move again, I will pierce your throat." Boom. In the next moment, the entire square let out a long hiss. Everyone's pupils involuntarily trembled, only to see that Chu Hen had unknowingly flashed in front of Qingye, that sharp spear in his hand, the tip of the spear already pressed against Qingye's throat. Victory or defeat. The result was obtained in the blink of an eye. But no one had expected that Qingye, who was at the half-step core transformation stage, would be so easily defeated by Chu Hen. Qingye's heart was in his throat when he felt the coldness in Chu Hen's eyes. Behind and to his left and right were ice curtains that were covered in icicles, and Qingye didn't even retreat. What do you want?" he asked in a low voice. "Humph." Chu Hen sneered, and there was still a playful expression between his brows. "What do I want? I want to ask you, what do you want? You've caused trouble for me twice for no reason. Do you really think I'm so easy to bully?" Looking at Qingye, whose life hung in Chu Hen's hands, the feelings of everyone below the stage were different. Li Hui, Zhou Lu, He Qingyuan, Lu Yu, and the others were surprised and bewildered. Truthfully speaking, until now, they still didn't understand how the enmity between the two of them was formed. Ji Xian's expression had already turned gloomy, and there was still coldness in his eyes. In fact, it was Ji Xian who instructed Qingye to go against Chu Hen, so the latter naturally wouldn't let it go. "Haha, how interesting! Junior brother Chu Hen, since you've won, it's about time to let it go." Chu Hen's handsome brows raised lightly, and he glanced sideways at Qingye. "Senior brother Ji Xian, are you treating this as a competition? I'm sorry, I don't have the leisure to fight here for all of you to watch." His cold and indifferent tone didn't have the slightest intention of compromising. Even though he was the #1 person in Tensei Prefecture, Chu Hen was still awe-inspiring arrogance. "I'm asking you to let him go." Ji Xian emphasized the word please, which sounded more like a threat. Instantly, the atmosphere of the scene became slightly strange. Everyone couldn't help but feel slightly baffled. Earlier, everyone thought it was a conflict between Chu Hen and Qingye, but now it seemed like the matter wasn't so simple. "Junior brother Chu Hen, stop fooling around. Let it go." Lu Yu hurriedly dissuaded him. She knew Ji Xian's personality very well, and if he was offended, he wouldn't be able to survive in Tensei Prefecture. "Chu Hen, don't mess around here." Instructor Roshan finally recovered from the shock and said, "It's all my fault for not stopping you just now. I won't pursue the matter since you're fighting here. However, there are elders from our prefecture overseeing this area in secret. If they're alarmed, you'll inevitably be punished again." Roshan's words were rather pertinent, and she didn't take sides. Chu Hen's expression softened a little. No matter what, he still had to give face to Roshan. "Humph, let me warn you, don't provoke me again in the future. Otherwise, I'll make sure your blood splatters everywhere. Buzz." Finished speaking, Chu Hen's gaze turned cold. With a flick of his wrist, the demon-punishing spear that was swallowing and spitting out true yuan dragged out a string of afterimages in the air. With a sweeping momentum, it struck Qingye's chest. Bang! Waves of air and dust piled up, and Qingye was instantly sent flying. At the same time, a large mouthful of blood spurted from his mouth. Qingye rolled off the stage, and Bian Hong, Wu Zhe and the others hurriedly went up to support him. Ji Xian, on the other hand, stood where he was, his expression growing increasingly gloomy. Chu Hen's spear was behind his back, and he stood proudly on the stage. His pitch-black eyes were fearless as he faced off against Qingye, and invisible sparks exploded in the air. At this moment, Ji Xian, Xiao Yan, Bai Yuyue, and Chu Hen seemed to have formed a connection between the four of them. Without a doubt, Chu Hen, who was only a newcomer this year, was rapidly following in the footsteps of the other three. They could clearly feel a strong sense of danger. The storm of the illusionary killing array training ended. Chu Hen, accompanied by Li Hui, Zhou Lu, and He Qingyuan, left the West Lake Plaza. Along the way, everyone was silent. The way they looked at Chu Hen was a little strange, filled with confusion and strangeness. The more they interacted with Chu Hen, the more they felt that Chu Hen was unfathomable, as if his entire body was filled with secrets. "I'll go back first," Chu Hen said. "Oh, okay," He Qingyuan replied and said. Chu Hen and the others nodded slightly, and after a simple greeting, they left. After a while, Chu Hen arrived at the maple forest alone. This was the place where he usually practiced his saber technique. With a thought, a white light flashed in Chu Hen's palm, and a black saber immediately appeared in his hand. Limitless Feng, Chu Hen looked at the black saber in his hand. This saber was exquisite, and its aura was awe-inspiring. Every time, Chu Hen could feel a hidden restless power from the saber. He didn't know that the limitless Feng given to him by Shi Lan was a powerful spiritual weapon. However, Chu Hen could faintly sense that this weapon seemed to contain some kind of astonishing power. "Forget it, I'll practice my saber techniques first." Chu Hen took a deep breath, then closed his eyes, got rid of the distracting thoughts, and began to recall the moves that he had memorized from Bai Yue in the illusion. If it was an ordinary person, this method would be useless. But Chu Hen, who had the bloodline boundary of the demon I holy body, not only remembered Bai Yue's moves, but also the direction of her true qi when she used her saber technique. This was equivalent to Chu Hen almost seeing through all of Bai Yue's moves. As long as he imitated and practiced according to this routine, he could achieve the same attack as Bai Yue. In Chu Hen's mind, a series of movements of Bai Yue when she used the Shadow Moon dance, including various subtle changes, appeared in front of Chu Hen. That should be the airflow. The Shadow Moon dance used the true qi to drive the airflow between heaven and earth to suppress the opponent in a fixed range. Then, using the speed of the airflow, she changed 9 positions in a very short time. Every time she changed a position, she waved her saber. There were a total of 9 sabers, causing 9 fatal wounds to the enemy. Like a shadow, like a moon, like a dance, this was Chu Hen's own opinion. As for that crescent moon shadow, it should be the aurora produced by the friction between the saber and the air. What kind of speed can reach that level? As Chu Hen pondered, he couldn't help but admire Bai Yue. For a girl to be able to train the speed of her saber to be so fast, it was really amazing. But thinking about it, Bai Yue's direct mentor was Shadowless. Everyone knew that Shadowless was a core mentor who specialized in speed. Under his tutelage, Bai Yue, in addition to her own talent, could reach this level. It wasn't strange. If I could use the Shadow Moon dance at the same level as Bai Yue, defeating that Qingyu would only be a matter of 3 moves, then, as Chu Hen recalled Bai Yue's moves, he couldn't help but try to imitate that routine. Limitless Feng waved in the air, dragging out a powerful airflow. Slowly, Chu Hen's speed became faster and faster, the airflow also became faster and faster, the dried branches and leaves also flew. It was imposing, but compared to Bai Yue's lithe and agile nature, it was completely incomparable. Chapter 171. As the days went by, the entire imperial city entered a countdown. In the 31 high-ranked martial houses, all the genius students had entered into a state of intense preparation and training. On the streets and alleys, after meals, the topic that everyone talked about the most was the upcoming All-Academy martial competition. "Hey, have you heard about it? This year's All-Academy martial competition will be different from the past." "How so?" "It's said that this year's All-Academy martial competition is divided into 2 levels. One is the Heaven ranking battle, and the other is the Earth ranking battle. There are only 100 spots in the Heaven ranking battle, and 68 of them are fixed. Only the top genius students in the high-ranked martial houses are qualified to obtain these fixed spots. In a month's time, the All-Academy martial competition will be held for the Earth ranking battle, and only the top 32 of the Earth ranking will be qualified to enter the Heaven ranking. Does this mean that there are tens of thousands of people competing for the 32 spots in the Heaven ranking?" "That's right. This is 2F** King difficult. It's really troublesome for tens of thousands of people to compete for 32 spots. It's easier to just get the fixed spots." "Forget it. Those 62 fixed spots aren't something that you can get just because you want to. Even outstanding geniuses like Wei Qingfan and Shen Yunxi might not be able to get the fixed spots in the heaven ranking. However, Wei Qingfan and Shen Yunxi will definitely be able to enter the top 32 of the Earth board. That's for sure. Not to mention the top 32, it won't be a problem for them to enter the top 5 of the Earth ranking. What's the purpose of the heaven ranking battle? It's never happened before. Tensei Prefecture. In the maple forest, Chu Hen constantly waved the black saber in his hand. The extremely powerful and piercingly cold aura caused the air within a few meters to flow abnormally fast. Rocks tumbled as dried branches and leaves danced around Chu Hen's body. Chu Hen's saber was light and fast, like a flickering light and a passing shadow, like a meteor chasing after the moon. Xing, the limitless Fang, burst out with a dazzling light. Chu Hen leapt up and was 20 meters above the ground. Then, a powerful aura was released from his body. Xiao. The black saber left a series of afterimages in the air. In the next instant, a 7 to 8 meter long crescent light streaked across the sky. The bright and beautiful flowing light was like a shooting star in the night sky. It was especially gorgeous. Then, the moment Chu Hen landed firmly on the ground, a big maple tree about 2 meters in front of him was split in half. Not bad. A gentle voice came from behind, and a beautiful figure with long purple hair walked up to him. Compared to a month ago, your saber technique has improved a lot. Chu Hen turned around, and a bright smile appeared on his handsome face. It's all thanks to your guidance. You've also learned to be talkative. Shilan smiled faintly. Her beautiful face was very moving. Chu Hen touched his nose, a little embarrassed. Only now did he realize how important it was to have a good teacher beside him. If he were to train hard by himself, he might not be able to achieve such results even after a year. Oh yes, teacher, I have a question to ask you. Go ahead. What level is this limitless Fang? Chu Hen raised the black saber in his hand. The sharp patterns on it were like the fangs of a fierce beast, emitting an unconcealable sharpness. I keep feeling that there's a very restless power in it. Looking at the familiar saber in front of her, Shilan's beautiful eyes could not help but surge with a hint of sadness. However, she quickly returned to normal. Her red lips moved slightly and she said, "There's indeed a strong power in the limitless Fang. This power is called limitless power. It's just that you don't have the ability to use it yet." Chu Hen's eyes lit up. Then what's the use of this limitless power? Like other spiritual weapons, it can greatly increase one's strength. Wait, spiritual weapon? Teacher, you said this limitless Fang is a spiritual weapon? So you still don't know? Chu Hen kept on shaking his head. Other than being astonished, he was also especially grateful. It seems like your spear is also a spiritual weapon. However, its ranking should be slightly lower than the limitless Fang on the spiritual weapon ranking, Shilan replied slowly and softly. The Devil Punisher spear too? Chu Hen raised his eyebrows, and the surprise on his face became even more obvious. However, he quickly regained his senses. The Devil Punisher spear was obtained from the underground palace in the Boneless Mountain Range with Xia Qing. The original owner of the Devil Punisher spear was Demon Spear Fang Bufan. Senior Fang Bufan was known as one of the 3 great spear kings, and he had a powerful cultivation base at the void-piercing stage. It was extremely reasonable that his opponent's weapon was a spiritual weapon. If Fang Bufan were to casually use a piece of scrap metal as a weapon, then it would truly be abnormal. Now that he had 2 spiritual weapons in his hands, coupled with the illusory Spirit Bell's weapon spirit, it was equivalent to 2.5 spiritual weapons. Chu Hen suddenly felt that he was rich. After all, apart from the imperial family of the Saint Star dynasty, only a few first-rate families and forces could possess spiritual weapons. Chu Hen's achievement was already enough to make countless people envious. Looking at the slightly proud look on Chu Hen's face, Shilan could not help but think of her younger brother, Shi Chen. She remembered that when she passed the limitless Fong to him, Shi Chen was even more proud than Chu Hen. There were many similarities between the two of them. There's only a little more than a month left until the all-school martial competition. Prepare well. This time, the heaven ranking and earth ranking will be slightly beneficial to you, Shilan said casually. Heaven ranking and earth ranking? Chu Hen was stunned. Yes, there are a total of 100 places in the heaven ranking. There are 68 fixed places, and the remaining 32 places are for the top 32 in the earth ranking competition. A trace of surprise flashed in Chu Hen's eyes. In other words, in the all-school martial competition a month later, 68 top geniuses would be directly placed in the heaven ranking. In other words, all the students participating in the earth ranking competition would not encounter those 68 people. This was somewhat beneficial to Chu Hen, as he could avoid encountering those terrifyingly powerful freaks as soon as possible. Will Wei Qingfan be directly placed in the heaven ranking? A trace of coldness flashed in Chu Hen's eyes. Shilan frowned slightly and shook her head gently. It's hard to say. He probably won't be able to get a fixed place. Chu Hen was even more surprised. A genius of Wei Qingfan's level was actually not in the top 68? As if reading Chu Hen's thoughts, Shilan explained, the 68 places are allocated to the major martial houses. In Tifeng province you can at most get 2 or 3 places. These 2 or 3 places are naturally given to the strongest people in the academy. Although Wei Qingfan is strong in Tifeng province, he is ranked 4th or 5th. Surprise. Other than surprise, there was only more surprise. It was only now that Chu Hen realized how far he was from the ranks of the top geniuses in the capital. If even Wei Qingfan couldn't obtain a fixed spot in the heaven roll, one could imagine how abnormal the 68 monstrous geniuses were. You're still young, and you still have a lot of time, Shilan said softly. Temporarily treat this year's all-school martial competition as a form of training. As for competing for the earth and heaven ranking, there will be opportunities in the future. No. Chu Hen clenched his fists and said resolutely, since the opportunity is right in front of me, why should I wait for the next time? I must enter the top 32 of the earth ranking and enter the heaven ranking. A sense of pride that originated from his bones was released from Chu Hen's body involuntarily. Shilan's slightly furrowed eyebrows quietly relaxed, and the corner of her small mouth unconsciously curved. She shook her head and laughed in her heart. Their personalities are really the same. Then, Shilan took the lead and left the maple forest. Chu Hen practiced his blade technique for another half an hour. Seeing that the sky had turned dark, he went back. However, after going back to change his clothes, Chu Hen went out again. After a while, Chu Hen arrived at a cultivation place in the eastern district of Tensei Prefecture. Appearing in front of Chu Hen was a magnificent building that occupied a large area and was 3 stories high. This building was called Retreat Courtyard. There were hundreds of secret rooms in the retreat courtyard. These secret rooms were all completely sealed. Except for a flash of door, every corner was airtight. This retreat courtyard could be said to be the most sturdy building in Tensei Prefecture. It was built with soundproof and shockproof materials. Even if you made a scene inside, the people in the isolation room would not be able to hear it. The reason why Chu Hen came here was to avoid being disturbed, and also for the sake of Mu Feng and Lei Zhen. The last time he made a scene, he almost destroyed the entire courtyard. Chu Hen did not want to do it again. There was no one guarding the retreat courtyard. The students who came here could directly enter the secret room when they saw it was empty. Then, Chu Hen entered the silent cultivation courtyard. Normally, there would always be rooms that were empty. But today, every single one of them was fully occupied. Moreover, there were many people waiting outside the secret rooms. It was no wonder. As the inter-academy martial competition was approaching, the usually lazy geniuses had become diligent. However, Chu Hen's luck was not bad. He found an empty secret room on the second floor. Without thinking too much, he entered and closed the door. Bang! The stone door closed slightly, and Chu Hen's ears instantly became especially quiet. Not even the slightest sound could be heard. This kind of effect was what Chu Hen wanted. The layout of the secret room was very simple. Apart from a cattail hassock cushion and a stone table, there was nothing else. There were a few luminous pearls inlaid on the wall, emitting a faint glow. It's been 4 months since I returned from St. Bell City. It's time to cultivate the flaming sun body tempering technique. Today is a big day. Everyone is watching the military parade, but I'm still writing. I'm working so hard. Won't my brothers throw flowers? Oh, intersection. Oh. Also, using today's big day, I wish the country will usher in a glorious era, and I also wish my brothers will soar and have a bright future. China's heavenly son of heaven, celebrate with the country. 2015, this is also my 24-year-old year. I hope it will be an extraordinary year, with 100 flowers blooming. I hope my brothers will fight with me in the vast world of online literature. I am a small boat, but I will cross the vast ocean. I beg for my brothers' support. I beg for flowers. Charge. Chapter 172. It's been 4 months since I returned from St. Bell City. It's time to cultivate the flaming sun body tempering technique inside the quiet and spacious secret cultivation room. Chu Hen's face flashed with a hint of excitement. The door of the secret room could only be opened from the inside. It couldn't be opened from the outside. Such an environment where he wouldn't be disturbed was exactly what Chu Hen hoped for. Following that, Chu Hen walked to the stone table in the middle of the secret room. He first took out a dark red scroll from his storage ring, opened the scroll, and carefully read every word on it. Flaming Sun Body Refinement Technique. At the initial success stage, the illusory flames will surround the body, and the strength of the body will be able to resist blades and swords. At the advanced success stage, the strength of the bones will be able to split spirit artifacts, able to crack spirit weapons. Just based on these 4 words, this flaming sun body tempering technique could really be called a priceless treasure. Chu Hen had already memorized the contents of the scroll. At this moment, he only wanted to confirm the contents of the scroll once more. In addition to smearing the blood of the starfire sword-toothed rhinoceros on his body, he also needed a continuous supply of spiritual energy during the cultivation process. There were still many blood yuan fruits in Chu Hen's storage ring, which could be used to replenish his spiritual energy. After confirming every word on the scroll, Chu Hen placed the scroll on the table and took out a glass container. The container was filled with a bright red liquid. Even through the bottle, one could feel a burning sensation from it. The blood of a demonic beast contained extremely intense energy, especially when it was a rank 5 spirit beast like the starfire sword-toothed rhinoceros. No one would want to smear their blood on their body. However, if one wanted to cultivate the flaming sun body tempering technique, the blood of a fire-type spirit beast was indispensable. Looking at the large bottle of demonic beast blood in front of him, Chu Hen let out a deep breath. He was already mentally prepared. Immediately, Chu Hen took off the clothes on his upper body, folded them and placed them on the table. He casually took out a blood yuan fruit and put it in his mouth. Along with the sweet juice, a thick spiritual energy flowed in his body like a hot spring. Opening the glass bottle containing the blood of the saber-toothed rhinoceros, a scorching wave of air immediately surged out from within. Chu Hen then took out a jade ruler. The end of the jade ruler was wrapped with a few circles of white cloth. He dipped the end of the white cloth into the glass bottle and dipped it in the blood of the astral fire saber-toothed rhinoceros. In just a few seconds, the white cloth was dyed dark red. The scorching heat was transmitted to Chu Hen's palm through the jade ruler. It was almost as hot as fire, as if it could melt the jade ruler at any time. Chu Hen could not help but frown. Even though he had already made preparations in his heart, to actually do it, it was truly difficult enough, however, After only a moment of hesitation, Chu Hen no longer hesitated. He gripped the jade ruler tightly and smeared the wet cloth dipped in the blood of the saber-toothed rhinoceros on his chest. A red mark immediately appeared on his body. Hiss! In the next moment, Chu Hen couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. His handsome face instantly turned blood-red. The moment the saber-toothed rhino's blood came into contact with his skin, Chu Hen felt as if the magma beneath the ground had splashed onto his body. An incomparably scorching pain followed his skin and flesh, piercing into every single one of his nerve. Chu Hen gritted his teeth and once again dipped the jade ruler in the blood of the saber-toothed rhinoceros and smeared it on his left arm. The intense pain was like a piece of flesh being scraped off. Very quickly, beads of sweat overflowed from Chu Hen's forehead. His veins were bulging, and his eyes were bloodshot. When Chu Hen smeared the boiling blood on his back for the third time, his legs couldn't help but tremble. Even though Chu Hen already knew that smearing the blood of the saber-toothed rhinoceros on his body would be a little uncomfortable, he never imagined that the pain would be this intense. At the same time, Chu Hen could faintly feel a strand of demonic beast energy in the saber-toothed rhinoceros's blood entering his body through his skin. However, the strength of this energy was negligible and couldn't support the basic conditions of circulating the flaming sun body tempering technique. Subsequently, a fourth, fifth, and sixth bloody mark appeared on Chu Hen's body. Not long after, Chu Hen's upper body was already dyed red. The blood of the saber-toothed rhinoceros didn't have much of a fishy smell, but when it was used on Chu Hen's body, it was like an extremely cruel punishment. Chu Hen gritted his teeth so hard that they made cracking sounds. His eyes were also suffused with a red light. Seeing that there was still more than half a bottle of the saber-toothed rhinoceros's blood in the container, Chu Hen clenched his teeth and steeled his heart. He suddenly flung away the jade ruler in his hand, picked up the glass bottle with both hands, and poured the blood on his head. Chu Hen let out a furious roar like a ferocious beast. The magma-like blood of the fifth-grade spirit beast instantly drenched his entire body. Rumble! A thunderous sound reverberated in Chu Hen's mind. In an instant, Chu Hen felt like he had fallen into a volcano, and an endless pain extended to every nerve cell in his body. Bang! With a loud sound, Chu Hen knelt heavily on the ground, unable to move. The saber-toothed rhinoceros's blood emitted a strange red glow and formed illusory halos in the dark secret chamber. At the same time, the violent energy that originated from the saber-toothed rhinoceros's blood flowed continuously on the surface of Chu Hen's body. Chu Hen felt like his skin and flesh were melting. No, I can't do this. Chu Hen clenched his teeth, and his blood-red eyes flickered with a frightening light. He struggled to adjust his posture and sit on the ground. Then, according to the cultivation method of the flaming sun body tempering technique, he mobilized the quintessential qi in his body and circulated it according to the method. Buzz buzz. The vigorous quintessential qi continuously circulated in his body according to the method of this martial art. Immediately after, something amazing happened. Chu Hen could clearly feel the energy from the saber-toothed rhinoceros's blood flowing into his body through the surface of his skin. The energy contained in the beast's blood surprisingly fused with Chu Hen's quintessential qi. Then, it flowed into his meridians and seeped into his bones. After one round, the strength of Chu Hen's body had clearly increased. However, the intense pain that had gathered on the surface of his skin had also been brought into his body. The intense pain caused Chu Hen to continuously let out muffled sounds like a ferocious beast. This kind of pain was unimaginable to others, and only Chu Hen could experience it himself. If he had to describe it, it was like molten copper flowing through his meridians. If it were an ordinary person, they would have already died from the pain. However, Chu Hen forcefully endured it. He gritted his teeth so hard that they were about to break, and his blood vessels were about to split open. However, Chu Hen had no other choice. If he wanted to compete with Wei Qinfan in the school martial arts competition in a month's time, he had to successfully cultivate the flaming sun body tempering technique. Hold on. Chu Hen secretly cheered himself on. If I can't even endure this little bit of hardship, how can I set foot on the peak of martial arts? How can I break the sky with one hand and destroy the world with a flick of my finger? I, Chu Hen, swear not to lower my head. Boom! A particularly powerful aura was released from Chu Hen's body. The power contained in the saber-toothed rhinoceros beast's blood all over his body seemed to be stimulated by something, blooming a scorching heat wave and red light. Soon, the true origin force in Chu Hen's body was exhausted, and the true origin force in his dantian could not keep up with the consumption. Chu Hen's eyes were still closed. He flipped his left hand, and a blood yuan fruit appeared in his palm again. Without hesitation, he swallowed the blood yuan fruit. The surging spiritual power immediately gathered into a powerful true origin force and flowed into his dantian. Under Chu Hen's control, the true origin force merged with the power of the beast's blood and circulated throughout his body, strengthening his flesh, blood vessels, and bones. Time continued to pass. Chu Hen stuffed the blood yuan fruit into his mouth again, and the beast's blood covering his body gradually dimmed. Moreover, the aura that Chu Hen exuded was also getting stronger. At this moment, a bright moon was hanging in the sky outside. In an antique meeting hall. Bang! The thick palm landed on the table with a heavy thud. Then, an old man with a head full of white hair stood up from his seat. This is going too far, this is going too far. Why did they only give our Tensei prefecture a fixed spot on the sky list? This is really going too far. Principal Jiang, it's fine if we don't participate in this year's All-Academy martial competition. Humph. Another old man sneered and said in a deep voice, if we don't participate, they will have an excuse to kick our Tensei prefecture out. I believe there are many people in the Imperial City who want to see our Tensei prefecture disband. But this is too much. The Imperial Martial Academy occupies 5 spots, 5 spots. That's 4 more spots than us. How can they bully us like this? The white-haired old man was still furious. In an instant, the entire hall fell into silence. Above the hall, Principal Jiang did not say a word. His tightly knitted brows were filled with complex emotions. At this moment, other than the various elders of the martial house, there was also Song Chunglai, Shadowless, Shilan, Yue, and a few other core teacher teams, other than Shilan, who had a rather calm expression. Everyone else's faces were gloomy and their brows were tightly knitted. Just an hour ago, Principal Jiang had just finished attending the Dean's meeting in the Imperial City. In this meeting, other than announcing the matters regarding the Earth List tournament, it was also about the distribution of the 68 fixed spots on the Sky List. The entire Imperial City had a total of 31 high-ranked martial houses. Among them, the Imperial Wind Academy, the Rhino Academy, the Giant Elephant Academy, and the Bright Moon Academy each obtained 3 fixed spots. As the head of the 5 great academies, the Imperial Martial Academy obtained 5 spots. 17 spots had been taken up just like that. As for the remaining 26 martial houses, other than the Heavenly Star Academy, the other 25 academies each obtained 2 spots, for a total of 50 spots. In this way, all 67 spots were distributed. In the end, the Heavenly Star Academy only obtained 1 spot. Chapter 173. Humiliation. This is simply the greatest humiliation to our Tensei prefecture. The Heavenly Star Martial House's assembly hall was filled with angry shouts. The All-Academy martial meet was just around the corner, and out of the 68 fixed spots on the Sky List, the Imperial Martial Academy had obtained 5 spots, while the Imperial Wind Martial House, Bright Moon Martial House, Spiritual Rhino Martial House, and Giant Elephant Martial House had obtained 3 spots each. The other 25 martial houses had obtained 2 spots, and only the Heavenly Star Martial House had obtained 1 spot. This was obviously a form of humiliation. What do you guys think we should do? Do we want this spot or not? Of course we want this spot. Don't tell me our Tensei Prefecture doesn't even have a spot? If word of this gets out, it'll be even more shameful. Song Chunglai couldn't help but feel a little angry. If we want this spot, isn't that the same as accepting their humiliation? What can we do? It's better than nothing. The more passive our Tensei Prefecture is, the more people will be waiting to see us make a fool of ourselves. How can we let them get what they want? If we can't get a fixed spot on the Sky list, then we'll try to get into the top 32 of the Earth list. Humph, nice words, but last year only your direct disciple Xiao Yan made it into the top 64, and this year you're telling me to try to get into the top 32? The white-haired elder seemed to be mocking himself. Song Chunglai frowned and continued, last year Xiao Yan met 2 strong opponents in a row, and that's why he was stopped in the top 64. But this year Xiao Yan's strength is definitely much stronger than before. Also Ji Xian, who's under instructor Shilan, and Bai Yue, who's under instructor Shadowless, didn't participate last year. Neither of them are weak. Last year, Xiao Yan first met Imperial Martial Academy's Tong Fei, and then he met Divine Rhino Martial House's Shin Yunshi. 2 battles in a row resulted in Xiao Yan's defeat at the hands of Shin Yunshi. As for Ji Xian, he didn't participate last year. At that time, he happened to be at a critical juncture of a breakthrough. After weighing the pros and cons, Shilan didn't approve of him participating, so Ji Xian missed last year's Academy Martial competition. Bai Yue was admitted to the hospital the year before last. In other words, at this time last year, Bai Yue had only entered Tensei Prefecture for less than a year. Because his strength was not very strong, he did not participate in the martial arts tournament. But later on, Bai Yue improved the fastest. Especially under Shadowless's guidance, Bai Yue was not inferior to Ji Xian and Xiao Yan. Stop arguing. Principal Jiang finally spoke. He heaved a deep sigh of relief. His eyes narrowed and he said in a low voice, the Heaven List's candidate is Ji Xian, who works under tutor Shilan. The only spot on the heavenly board was given to Ji Xian. Everyone in the hall was slightly stunned. Of course, this decision wasn't unexpected. Also, I hope that in the next month or so, you core tutors will put in more effort to increase the strength of those little guys. Since we only have 1 spot on the heaven list, there are still the top 36 on the earth list. After so many years, it's time for us, Tensei Prefecture, to retaliate. Speaking of the excitement, Principal Jiang stood up from the wide chair. His pair of slightly cloudy old eyes were filled with sharpness. We old guys haven't reached the point where we can't move. How can we admit defeat? Principal Jiang's words immediately influenced all the elders and mentors who were present. Every one of their faces revealed a hint of emotion. Song Chunglai took a step forward and clenched his fist. I, Song Chunglai, guarantee that this year, my disciple, Xiao Yan, will definitely make it to the top 32. Then, Tutor Shadowless also stood up. His usual playful expression became especially serious. He continued, I will do my best to help Yue increase her strength. I believe she can make it to the top 32. Very good. Principal Jiang nodded. As long as 2 people from our Tensei Prefecture make it to the top 32, then 3 people will enter the heaven list. Who would dare to say that our martial house can't do it? All the elders and tutors couldn't help but clench their fists. Each of their eyes lit up with hope. At that moment, Shilan, who had been silent all this while, suddenly spoke. Her gentle voice contained a hint of determination. Aside from Ji Xian, there's another student under me. I believe that he'll be able to enter the heaven ranking. What? Everyone's hearts skipped a beat, and they all turned to look at Shilan in astonishment. The sun and moon rotated. Time passed 1 day at a time. The day of the Earth List tournament was getting closer and closer. The genius students of the various martial houses had entered the final stage of their sprint. Each of them put in more than 10 times the usual hard work to train. Chu Hen didn't come again? In the training field, Shilan looked helplessly at the dozens of direct disciples in front of her. Chu Hen hadn't appeared for a few days. There was no sign of him in the maple forest either. Tutor, someone saw Senior Chu Hen in the secret room of the quiet cultivation courtyard, Li Hui said. In the secret room of the quiet cultivation courtyard? Shilan was slightly surprised. Although she had doubts, she wasn't worried about Chu Hen. She didn't say much and started the last stage of training for everyone. The whole martial house was bustling with excitement. The whole city was bustling with excitement. Every year at this time, it was the busiest time in the imperial capital and even the entire Sacred Star dynasty. Seeing that the day of the Earth List tournament was getting closer and closer, the door of the secret room on the second floor of the quiet cultivation courtyard had never been opened. In the secret room, Chu Hen's entire body was covered with dark red bloodstains. After the dried bloodstains solidified, they covered Chu Hen's skin like a layer of wrinkled leather armor. At this moment, Chu Hen's breathing was even and his whole body was emitting an aura that was as steady as a mountain. Who knew that Chu Hen had been here for nearly a month, and there were only a few dozens of blood yuan fruits left? Buzz, suddenly, an astonishing aura surged out from Chu Hen's body. In the next moment, the dried bloodstains covering Chu Hen's body directly cracked, forming crisscrossing cracks. Immediately, a majestic sound was set off in the air. A circle of vigorous golden Jin yuan spread out from Chu Hen's body like water ripples. The dried beast blood that stuck to the surface of his skin was immediately shattered into fragments that filled the sky. With an incomparably powerful aura, Chu Hen opened his eyes, and 2 beams of bright light shot out. At this moment, Chu Hen only felt that the true yuan in his Dantian's sea of energy was as majestic as a surging river, and his whole body was filled with powerful strength. With a thought from Chu Hen, the torrent-like true yuan soared into the sky and filled the secret room. It had been 5 months since he returned from St. Bell City. Finally, he broke through again. This time, he directly skipped 8 levels and rushed to the 9th level of the elemental opening realm. Chapter 174. After 5 months, Chu Hen had finally made a breakthrough once again. This time, he directly skipped the 8th stage of the natal opening stage and rushed to the 9th stage of the natal opening stage in one fell swoop. Although the process seemed very simple, Chu Hen had been numb from the pain over the past month, and had almost fainted countless times. He had clenched his teeth and persevered. While the flame energy contained in the astral fire sword-tooth rhinoceros blood strengthened Chu Hen's muscles and bones, only a few dozen blood yuan fruits remained. During this period of time, he had put in a lot of effort and resources, but the rewards made Chu Hen exceptionally happy. Buzz, with a thought from Chu Hen, a golden halo was released from his body like a flowing spring. The resplendent halo circled around his body and formed a flowing dark red illusory flame. An extremely powerful force filled every inch of Chu Hen's muscles, flesh, skin, and bones. Even his skin faintly glowed with a golden luster. It looked as if Chu Hen was wearing a suit of holy light armor. The intersecting golden and red radiance was like the might of the sun from the 9 heavens. His entire body exuded a holy aura. Chu Hen slowly raised his right arm and clenched his fist. A resplendent light blossomed on his right fist like the radiance of the sun. The air could not help but tremble as waves of air trembled. A knowing smile involuntarily appeared on Chu Hen's face as he sensed that his power was several dozen times stronger than it was a month ago. Right now, he only wanted to test the power of the flaming sun body tempering technique as soon as possible and see how strong his body had become. Wei Qingfan, it's impossible for you to defeat me in 3 moves. Chu Hen's eyes turned cold as a cold intent involuntarily emerged from between his brows. Whoosh! When Chu Hen changed into a new set of clean clothes and walked out of the door of the secret cultivation room, The fresh air that he had not felt for a long time blew into his face. His mind was refreshed and his eyes and ears were clear. The feeling was especially comfortable. Even though it was already winter, Chu Hen did not feel the slightest bit of coldness. The gorgeous sunlight poured down and shone on his handsome face, making him look somewhat transparent. In the past month, Chu Hen felt as if he had been reborn. Under the light, the side of his face was angular and slightly thin. But no one would have thought that this body, which was not very tall and sturdy, contained such an astonishing power. A moment later, Chu Hen arrived at the 7 Stars Square. As far as the eye could see, the plaza was filled with people. The dense crowd surrounded a 7 to 8 meter tall notice board, and all kinds of noises rose and fell. "Senior brother Chu Hen, have you come out of the secret training chamber?" Li Hui saw Chu Hen walking towards him from afar, and immediately ran towards him with a look of surprise. Zhou Lu, Mu Feng, and Lei Zhen also came along. "We were just talking about it. If you don't come out by tonight, Teacher Shilan is going to disqualify you from the competition." Chu Hen smiled embarrassedly. It seemed that it had been a month since he attended Teacher Shilan's lessons. "Is the Earth List battle tomorrow? What else do you think?" Mu Feng curled his lips, and his eyes were full of smugness. "Hee hee, you're lucky that you're not in the same division as me. Otherwise, hee hee, Chu Hen can even defeat Qingya. Who do you think you are?" Zhou Lu said disdainfully. "What, who does Qingya think he is? Do you believe that this handsome Feng can beat him with one hand? You really know how to boast. Why don't you say that you can make it into the top 36 of the Earth List?" Mu Feng smiled smugly. With one hand on his waist, he pointed at Zhou Lu and said, "What if this handsome Feng makes it into the top 36? Do you have the guts to let me touch your breasts? Although it's a little flat, it's still passable." "You!" Zhou Lu was so angry that her face turned red. Her eyes were about to spit fire. "Hee hee, how about it? Do you dare to bet with me? You want to make it into the top 36 with this kind of conduct? Just say it. Are you going to bet or not?" Zhou Lu was so angry that she couldn't vent her anger. She clenched her teeth and scolded hatefully, "Let's bet. Do you think I'm afraid of you? If you don't make it into the top 36, kneel on the ground and lick the soles of this lady's shoes." "No problem." Mu Feng agreed straightforwardly. Chu Hen, Li Hui, and Lei Zhen, who were at the side, were stunned by the domineering aura of the two people in front of them. They were really playing big. Mu Feng had a sneaky smile on his face. His small eyes stared at Zhou Lu's chest with a sneaky gaze, causing Zhou Lu to gnash her teeth in anger. She had the urge to cut him into 8 pieces. The few of them had black lines on their forehead. They all secretly scolded Mu Feng for being shameless. Not to mention that he didn't have the ability to make it into the top 36. Even if he made it into the top 36, he still had the nerve to make a move? "Oh right. What do you mean by the divisions?" Chu Hen had almost forgotten about the matter at hand. "Oh yes." Li Hui raised his eyelids and said, "Senior brother Chu Hen, you were assigned to Division 224 in the southern domain outside the city." "Division 224 in the southern domain outside the city?" Chu Hen frowned. "How many divisions are there?" "More than 2,000 divisions." "More than 2,000. Chu Hen was obviously shocked. "That's right." Li Hui nodded and continued. "This year's martial competition is very different from the previous years, and the rules are completely new. The total number of people participating in the Imperial Capital's martial competition is more than 60,000. So, in the first round of elimination, more than 58,000 people will be eliminated." Hearing this, Chu Hen couldn't help but be extremely shocked. The scale of this event was truly huge. "Continue. Because the number of participating students is too large, it's divided into 4 large divisions. They're respectively the Eastern Domain outside the city, the Southern Domain outside the city, the Western Domain outside the city, and the northern domain outside the city. These 4 large divisions are all places where the imperial family trains the guards. This time, we've obtained the imperial family's agreement to use them as the competition grounds for the first round of the martial competition. Li Hui licked his slightly dry lips and continued. In the 4 large divisions of the eastern, western, southern, and northern domains, there are more than 500 small divisions in each of the 4 large divisions. Over 30 participants are arranged in each small division, and there can only be one winner amongst these 30 participants. In other words, if one wants to advance to the first round of elimination, one must defeat all the opponents in the same division. Li Hui's explanation was very detailed. Naturally, Chu Hen also understood everything. In the 4 large divisions, there were a total of 2,000 divisions, and in each small division, only one person could win. And this person who won would advance to the first round and become one of the top 2,000 participants. Then what are the rules for the second round? Chu Hen asked. Li Hui shook his head. The rules for the second round have not been announced, but it's said that it's much more cruel and difficult than the first round. However, Tutor Shilan only told us not to put too much pressure on ourselves, and just to do our best. Chu Hen smiled. This was indeed Tutor Shilan's style. Although she usually didn't speak much, her words were filled with the care and concern of an older sister. Southern Domain Division 224, huh? Chu Hen first muttered to himself, then asked, "What about you guys? Which division are you in?" "I'm in East Domain number 103, Li Hui said. Mu Feng shrugged. "I'm in North Domain number 392. West Domain number 455. South Domain number 288. Zhou Lu and Lei Zhen also stated their division locations. Chu Hen raised his eyebrows, looked at Lei Zhen and said, "We're all in the Southern Domain." Lei Zhen grinned. This was the first time he had come into contact with the All-Academy Martial Tournament. He was excited, expectant, and a trace of timidity. He didn't know what it meant to compete with the geniuses of the other martial houses to advance. But Lei Zhen knew that this was a path that a powerhouse must take. "That's right, Senior Brother Chu Hen, there's something else I need to tell you. Senior Brother Ji Xian has obtained our martial house's only heaven list ranking," Li Hui said. "Oh!" Chu Hen's eyes narrowed and a cold light flashed in the corner of his eyes. Of course, this wasn't strange. As the number 1 on the Star Branch ranking, no one was more qualified than him to obtain a fixed spot on the heaven list. "What about Senior Brother Xiao Yan?" Chu Hen casually asked. Because he was Song Chenglie's direct disciple, he was a bit curious. The few of them looked at each other, and Li Hui's face revealed a faint bitter smile. "Not yet. Tensei Prefecture only obtained a heaven list ranking." Chu Hen nodded. There was no need to delve into this matter. In the evening, Tensei Prefecture suddenly became a lot more lively. All the students and mentors were called to the 7 Stars Plaza. On the plaza, wine jars were piled up like a small mountain. The plaza was filled with round tables, and the tables were filled with delicacies. Wine and delicacies. What's going on? Everyone looked at the scene in confusion. Subsequently, Song Chenglai, Shadowless, and the other elders and mentors arrived with Principal Jiang. Greetings to Principal Jiang. All the students from Tensei Prefecture bowed respectfully in unison. Principal Jiang waved his hand, and his voice was as majestic as a mountain. Tomorrow will be the first round of the Earth Ranking Tournament. The Academy will host a banquet here tonight to congratulate the students who are about to step onto the arena and return victorious. Boom. As soon as this statement was made, the entire place was filled with jubilation. No one expected Principal Jiang to do this. Needless to say, most of the students were touched. This kind of warmth could only be enjoyed in their own families. "Students!" Principal Jiang's slightly turbid but not imposing gaze swept across Ji Xian, Xiao Yan, Bai Yue, and the rest. Finally, his gaze stopped on Chu Hen. "All of you are the hope of Tensei Prefecture. There are too many people who look down on our Sky Star Academy. But I want to say that I have never given up on this academy, and I have never given up on all of you,